Inside a KTV private room, the air is thick with a suffocating mix of pungent perfume and stale alcohol. Chen Yi jerks awake, jolted from death, and realizes he has been reborn. Emboldened by the alcohol, Yang Kun exposes his facade in front of everyone. Cut the act, Chen Yi. We all know who you really are. He sneers, a rich kid? You know damn well that's a lie. Chen Yi's mind reels, snapping back to this pivotal turning point in his destiny. Yang Kun presses on, aggressively revealing to the room that Chen Yi is an orphan. Scamming people to play the rich kid? The 30-something classmates in the room are stunned into silence. The class monitor, Zhao Ming, tries to smooth things over, but Yang Kun shoves him aside. Pointing a finger right in Chen Yi's face, Yang Kun bellows, if you've got any guts left at all. Just admit you're a total pauper. Every eye in the room is fixed sharply on Chen Yi. Faced with Yang Kun's provocation, Chen Yi simply smiles. Because a mechanical voice echoes in his mind, advice-taking revenge system successfully bound. He stands up calmly and says softly, Yang Kun is right. I'm not some rich kid. I'm an orphan. Thanks for the reminder. Honestly, pretending to be wealthy is exhausting. These words leave Yang Kun and the entire class speechless. The system grades this action as S tier. 8 million is credited to him instantly. Chen Yi sees the bank notification. He shakes his head with a self-deprecating laugh, then grabs his jacket. I've already paid the tab for tonight. You guys keep partying. I'm heading out. He walks out of the room, leaving a stunned, statue-like Yang Kun and a room full of shocked classmates. Having completely shed the vanity of his past life, Chen Yi takes a deep breath outside the KTV. The weight he's been carrying for over a decade finally lifts. He walks over to the red Porsche 718 parked at the curb. It's the car he rented to keep up appearances, burning through every cent of his living expenses. He opens the door and slams his foot on the gas. He decides to return this car a face. At the rental shop, Chen Yi tosses the keys and says flatly, the car's fine. I'm returning it early, just settle the deposit. Send it to me, that's all. After the inspection, he takes off his Xenu suit and the high-end fake submariner watch right there, asking the owner to take them back too. He even earns $50 in change. The owner is completely dumbfounded. That young master facade is stripped away completely. In the taxi, Chen Yi pulls out his phone to look at that pure white avatar, the kind soul who had been sponsoring him for 3 years. Looking at the screen full of his own lies, he feels his face burn with shame. He takes a deep breath and starts typing, good evening. I never asked what to call you. I've been reflecting on things lately. I am so sorry I lied to you. I used all that money just to put on a show. I'm sorry. The other person replies with 4 icy words. What do you mean? Chen Yi states bluntly that he wants to return the money. The other person asks guardedly if he took out a loan shark deal. Chen Yi makes up a quick excuse. I flipped some second-hand electronics with friends over the summer and made a profit. My college expenses are all covered now. Behind that gentle lie is the calm of someone reborn. The reply comes back. Keep the card number. No need. Walk your own path from here on out. Take care of yourself. Looking at this familiar message, a warm feeling washed over Chen Yi. He stood before the floor-to-ceiling window of the 18-story hotel, looking down at the city lights flickering like stars. Deciding to invest all 8 million, he recalled the massive bull stock from his past life. Shinili, the next morning, Chen Yi woke up in the hotel and calmly finished his breakfast. He opened his trading app and went all in on Shinili. It was a stock he knew would skyrocket in 3 days due to a patent announcement. At $3.18, he bought 970,000 shares for 7 million. Yet, his heart rate didn't even quicken. This was the confidence of knowing the future. Returning to the urban village, the landlady, Sister Zhang, blocked his path to give him a hard time. Are you paying the rent for the second half of the year or not? If you don't have the money today, get out. Chen Yi just nodded calmly, you're absolutely right. I really am penniless. I can't afford this room anymore, so I'll move out right now. His refreshing frankness left Sister Zhang completely stunned. System notification, primary physical enhancement serum awarded. Along with 500,000 in cash, Chen Yi absorbed the reward without a sound. Feeling his body surge with newfound strength, he walked into the room. He picked up that old, dust-covered wooden box, the only memento left by his parents. Then, he walked out of the basement without looking back, leaving his past behind for good. He arrived at the Baewi Hotel, standing in the luxurious lobby wearing just a t-shirt. He said calmly, I'd like to book an executive suite. After paying 400,000 for a 3-month lease with his card. The front desk manager's attitude turned instantly respectful. Chen Yi sighed to himself, money really does talk. There is a huge difference between having money and just acting like it. In the afternoon, Chen Yi was reading about stocks in the executive lounge when a middle-aged man in a suit saw his screen full of Shinili charts. He said coldly, "This is a volatile stock, the water is too deep. Young man, instead of wasting time on this, you should read more books on fundamentals. Try to settle down." Anyone else might have gotten angry. But Chen Yi just smiled. "You have a sharp eye. I'm just a complete amateur. If I keep playing like this, I'm bound to crash and burn sooner or later." He stood up and pulled a book off the shelf, Macroeconomic Cycles and Investment Fundamentals, and began reading quietly. This willingness to listen and his honesty stunned the middle-aged man, but Chen Yi knew the system's reward was already on its way. In the lounge, the middle-aged man's hand, holding his teacup, froze in midair. He had seen too many arrogant new kids who thought they knew it all. He expected Chen Yi to argue back, but the kid had actually admitted his ignorance. He even started reading the book right there. This calm, unflappable attitude made him drop his contempt. The moment Chen Yi turned the page, a mechanical synthesized voice exploded deep in his mind. Detected that the host has accepted advice from a top business tycoon and put it into action. Action rated, sulfur monosulfide level. Abandoning arrogance. Learning with an open mind. Critical reward issued. Obtained master-level financial intuition and precise short-selling opportunity. A massive stream of information instantly flooded his brain. K-line charts, financial reports, macro policies, industry cycles, the financial data that once seemed obscure. Automatically deconstructed and reorganized in Chen Yi's mind, he took a deep breath. His eyes were now much deeper than before. The middle-aged man put down his teacup, leaned forward and said with a hint of sarcasm, "You actually listened, huh? Staying on this floor, your family must be well off. Who gave you the inside information to buy this volatile stock?" Chen Yi closes the heavy book and replies calmly. Applying his knowledge on the spot, Chen Yi looks the man straight in the eye. With a firm tone, he says, "The macroeconomic fundamentals in the book are fine. But when you apply them to the new energy industry, the logic is completely wrong." He breaks down the 3 fatal flaws one by one. First, there is a serious mismatch in upstream lithium mining capacity. Raw material prices are guaranteed to double within 6 months at most. Second, policy subsidies are being phased out. 90% of car companies are just faking their way through to stay alive. Third, mass production of solid-state batteries is a false premise. Whoever is the first to put out a breakthrough patent will be the one to get the lion's share. The room falls deathly silent, the composure on the middle-aged man's face completely cracks. He stands up abruptly and reaches into his inner suit pocket. He pulls out a silver business card holder and draws out a plain white card. For the first time ever, he offers it with both hands, saying, "I've been taught a lesson. I take back what I said earlier. My name is Zhou Xingjin. If you need anything in the future, feel free to call this number." Chen Yi glances at the card, 138-8868-8888. On the plain white cardstock, only the name Zhou Xingjin and a string of numbers are printed in bold, black font. No titles. He knows that at the absolute top, a name is the most powerful calling card there is. Chen Yi sits steadily on the sofa, leans forward and reaches out with both hands to accept the card. "You're too kind, Mr. Zhou." He slips the card into his pocket. His movements natural and fluid, a smile playing on his lips. His tone is gentle. "My name is Chen Yi. I'm still a student, so I'll definitely be coming to you for advice whenever I'm confused about macroeconomics." He gives the man plenty of face, leaving room for the future. Zhou Xingjin stands up. His custom-made suit drapes perfectly. He looks down at the young man wearing a cheap t-shirt. The composure radiating from his very bones shocks him inwardly. Zhou Xingjin turns and walks toward the elevator. The gentle look on his face quickly fades, replaced by extreme gravity. The elevator door is like a mirror. He stares at his own reflection. He rubs his cufflink. He manages over 100 billion in private equity. And he has seen countless brilliant young men, but Chen Yi's cold, clinical dissection of capital logic is definitely not something an ordinary family could cultivate. Is he a descendant sent out by one of those Beijing families to gain experience? He wonders to himself, only a family that doesn't care about short-term profits could produce such a freak who uses a full position, high leverage strategy as a tool for arbitrage. The corridor returns to silence, filled with the smooth, flowing sounds of jazz. Chen Yi sits back in the booth and takes a sip of his black coffee. He takes out his phone and opens his trading app to look at the K-line chart for Shinei New Energy. It is still a lifeless, flat green line, with the share price stuck firmly at $7.20. The comment section is filled with the wails of retail investors. 7 million is tied up in a full position stake inside. Chen Yi's gaze doesn't flicker. He closes the app. His eyes linger on his right hand holding the phone. The cuff of his yellowing, washed-out white t-shirt is slightly frayed. He doesn't care about that at all, but he has decided. that it's time to pick up a new wardrobe. Chen Yi stands up to leave. The lobby manager on the 60th floor sees him coming and immediately walks over to greet him. Bowing deeply, he says, "Mr. Chen, have a good day." The doorman quickly swings the revolving door open. Hailing a taxi, heading to Plaza 66. Chen Yi climbed into the backseat, heading straight for the luxury brand Loro Piana tucked away in the corner of the second floor. As he pushed open the glass door, a wave of cool air hit him, carrying a faint scent of cedarwood. Chen Yi walked in, wearing a faded white t-shirt, and the shop assistant with short hair quickly scanned his outfit. But her gaze eventually settled on his calm face and his upright posture. With a steady, composed gait, he carried an aura of authority that many gold card VIPs didn't even possess. With effortless ease, Chen Yi walked straight to the basics section, his fingers brushing over the garments. Speaking at a measured pace but with a sharp eye, he said, "This cashmere base layer. Take a medium, and these high thread count cotton shirts, 2 each in black, white, and gray. That wool blend pair of casual trousers, give me my size. No need to try them on, the size will be perfect." He pulled out his China Merchants Bank savings card. He pushed it onto the counter, and the payment was processed. 168,000 yuan. Chen Yi didn't even let his hand tremble as he signed the receipt. His eyes were as calm as if he had just bought a bottle of water downstairs. Carrying the low-key shopping bag with no excess branding, he turned and walked out of the store. But standard off-the-rack clothing was only a foundation to truly establish a foothold in this social class. He had to rely on custom tailoring. Half an hour later, the car drove into the old French concession, where the shadows of the plane trees were dappled on the ground. Relying on his memories from his past life, Chen Yi turned into a quiet, deep alleyway. At the end of the alley stood a 3-story mahogany villa with no sign out front, the only place in Zhangcheng. A private high-end studio that served top-tier tycoons. He pushed open the heavy mahogany door. The receptionist in uniform smiled and politely blocked his path. "Hello, sir. We operate strictly by appointment. May I ask if you have called ahead? Or are you familiar with any of our designers?" Her tone was courteous, but her eyes held a hint of suspicion. Chen Yi felt no embarrassment at being turned away. He stopped with his shopping bag, his gaze drifting past the receptionist's shoulder to the mannequin standing by the inner door. On it was a semi-finished dark blue suit jacket. "No appointment," he said calmly, his eyes still fixed on the garment. "Though, looking at your rules, they don't seem as strict as the rumors suggest." Just as the receptionist was about to speak, Chen Yi pointed his finger into the air. "Look at the lapel, the Holland and Sherry Super. 200 count wool blend with sable fur. It starts at 20,000 yuan per meter. The fabric is top-notch, but it's a pity the bead stitching on the collar was done by machine. For fabric of this level, if you aren't using full hand stitching, isn't that just wasting the material?" The heavy velvet curtain to the inner room was ripped open abruptly. A middle-aged man with black-rimmed glasses and a salt and pepper beard strode out. It was the proprietor, Old Lu. He stared fixedly at Chen Yi, his eyes filled with shock. This garment, he had used machine stitching in an inconspicuous place to rush an urgent order. Yet this young kid had spotted it at a glance. Old Lu dropped all his condescension, stepped forward quickly, and offered a standard, respectful gesture to invite him in. In the VIP room, Chen Yi sat down and got straight to the point. 2 autumn jackets and a pair of Goodyear welted Oxford shoes. Use the Holland and Sherry Phantom series, fully hand-stitched. And I don't want any brand logos. Just a single letter, C, embroidered in silver thread, hidden on the inside of the left chest lining. The VIP room was so quiet you could only hear the hum of the AC. Old Lu took a deep breath. Looking at Chen Yi now was like looking at a living legend. The Shakia Treasure Phantom series, blended with 24-karat gold thread. Priceless and impossible to find, which is why it was made to order. Time-consuming and demanding, but the crucial part was that request, no branding. Just that single letter. The requirements were obsessively strict. Only someone truly born into the lap of old money luxury could demand such a thing. Old Lu adjusted his glasses, his tone heavy with respect. "I've accepted your request, sir. I will personally take your measurements. We'll open our highest level priority channel. Delivery in 10 days. The price will be our highest internal discount, 500,000 exactly." Chen Yi nodded. He pulled out his debit card and paid a deposit of 200,000. The balance would be paid upon delivery. As he walked out of the Kayan studio, the autumn night breeze blew through the gaps in the plane tree leaves, brushing against his face. It brought a hint of chill. Chen Yi stopped in his tracks. He tilted his head, looking at the glass window of a closed shop on the street. The reflection showed him still wearing that cheap white t-shirt, but inside his 18-year-old body was a calmness tempered by years of hardship. He rubbed his chin. Now that he had the clothes, should he get a car? But the thought flashed and vanished. He checked his phone. It was 8:30 in the evening. He shoved his hands into his pockets. Compared to buying a car, there was something more important right now. He raised his hand to flag down a taxi to Chanla Alley in the old district. Half an hour later, the taxi stopped at the entrance of a lane paved with bluestone slabs in an old neighborhood. The light was dim and the air was filled with the smell of coal. A charred, burnt scent from extinguished stoves. Chen Yi held the worn-out wooden box in his hands. Following his memories, he walked to the end of the alley to a traditional coppersmith shop that had been open for 30 years. It didn't even have a sign. Inside, a dim, yellow tungsten bulb glowed. The old craftsman looked up at the item on the counter. An old piece, huh? The spring in this brass lock is completely rotted. I can't make a key for it. You'll have to just take a hammer and smash it open. Chen Yi shook his head. Don't smash it. Use fine steel wire to pick out the spring bit by bit, then craft a new copper lock using the old design to match it. Also, the base has lost its glue. Don't use pneumatic nails. Use the traditional dovetail joint technique to rebond it. It's labor-intensive. The manual labor is 800, plus extra for the rush order. 1,500. I'll come pick it up in 3 days. After paying, his gaze lingered on the wooden box. He didn't move for a long time. In his previous life, he looked down on this thing as poor and shabby. When he was pushed to the edge by debt collectors, he had kicked it under the bed. Living a second life with 8 million in his account, he finally understood. Designer suits and supercars could be bought, but the roots of one's own blood, once lost, they can never be found again. This wooden box was the only thing in both his lifetimes that connected him to his parents. Returning to the city center, Chen Yi turned into a quiet, tree-lined path leading to Yinlu, the top-tier, 3-diamond black pearl private kitchen in Zhangcheng. It's hidden right here, away from the neon lights. No hostesses to greet you, just a pair of half-closed bamboo doors and some simple, unadorned paper lanterns. He stepped over the threshold, and the restaurant manager's eyes swept over his outfit. Instead of showing any contempt, the manager actually bowed slightly lower. His gait was incredibly steady. That kind of unmasked, natural ease couldn't possibly be put on. 1 serving of snowflake wagyu, 1 serving of boiled cabbage in broth. Add a side of stir-fried asparagus, and pair it with a pot of 15-year-old aged white tea. The manager's hand paused while recording the order, and he quickly looked up at him. These 2 Sichuan dishes, devoid of chili, are the ultimate test of the kitchen's control over the fire. Only a true connoisseur would know to order them. Ha ha ha. Bring 2 bottles of your most expensive Lafite. Boss Zhang is in a good mood today, ha 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 ha. Through a gap in the folding screen, he caught a glimpse of Chen Yi sitting alone at his table. That cheap, tattered white t-shirt made him let out a heavy, derisive snort through his nose. He turned his head and laughed loudly. The threshold for these high-end restaurants lately is getting lower and lower. Any penniless trash-collecting scrap can just waltz in. Just looking at him while I sip my tea kills my appetite. His companion chimed in with a few arrogant, mocking laughs. Chen Yi leaned back in his elm chair just as the waiter brought over the steaming white tea. He took a sip. The mellow richness of the dried tangerine peel masked the bitterness of the aged white tea. It warmed him all the way down to his stomach. He didn't even cast a single glance toward the neighboring table. There is no point in bickering with a loud-mouthed nouveau riche. It only drags you down to their level. True superiority is indifference. Half an hour later, the meal finished, Chen Yi gestured for the check, and the manager walked over holding the gold-embossed bill on a tray. He bowed slightly. Mr. Chen, your total comes to 4,800 yuan. Chen Yi pulled a bank card from his pocket and tossed it onto the tray. A China Merchants Bank private banking black gold savings card, with a matte black finish. Not a single flashy pattern, just a tiny row of letters in the upper right corner. The manager brought over the POS machine and inserted the card. The man with the gold chain, emboldened by the alcohol, swayed over to see for himself what this poor loser would use to pay. Transaction successful. The POS machine spit out the receipt. The manager handed back the card along with the receipt with both hands. In that very moment of the exchange, the gold-chained man's peripheral vision swept over that black card, and a cold sweat instantly broke out on his forehead. He recognized what that was, a high-end, exclusive financial tool. You need assets of at least 10 million to qualify for it. The wine glass in his hand shook violently. The red wine spilled all over his leather shoes, and his drunken stupor vanished in an instant. Chen Yi put away his card, stood up, and turned around. He swept a calm, indifferent gaze over the gold-chained man who was frozen in place. He uttered 2 words and the man felt his scalp tingle. His legs uncontrollably backed away, and his lower back slammed hard against the corner of a table. Chen Yi walked out the door, hands in his pockets, his stride unhurried and composed. He disappeared into the night, leaving only the gold-chained man standing there, frantically wiping away his sweat. At 11 o'clock that night, Chen Yi returned to his penthouse suite at the Baiewi Hotel. He took a hot shower and poured a glass of ice water. Walking to the giant floor-to-ceiling window, the view from the 68th floor was vast. The glorious neon lights of Zhangcheng were all in view. There were still a few days left before the university semester started. The university town is in the suburbs, so I'll inevitably need to head into the city often. Dealing with stock settlements and following up on investments, I'll be relying on ride-hailing apps for everything. That's not practical. Chen Yi held his iced water, his mind rapidly filtering through car models. He immediately ruled out Ferraris and Lamborghinis. His experience renting a Porsche sports car in his past life made him loathe those supercars that were plastered with flashy labels. Rolls-Royces and Maybachs? Those are meant for CEOs who have full-time chauffeurs. A standard Mercedes E-Class or Audi A6. They're everywhere, completely lacking any real character. His gaze finally settled on the Audi RS6 Avant, known as the most powerful station wagon on the planet. Its exterior looks extremely understated. To those who aren't in the know, it just looks like an ordinary 200,000 or 300,000 yuan station wagon. But stuffed under the hood is a 4.0-liter twin-turbo V8 engine. A touch of the gas and it hits 100 km per hour in just over 3 seconds. That low-key look paired with such brutal power and top-tier interior perfectly matches his mindset now that he's shed his vanity. Early morning, sunlight pierced through the floor-to-ceiling panoramic windows on the 68th floor of the Banyue Hotel. Chen Yi opened his eyes on the genuine leather bed. He pressed the control panel and the curtains slid open automatically. After finishing breakfast, he walked into the walk-in closet. He changed into the dark casual trousers he bought yesterday and a gray vicuña wool blend short-sleeve shirt. There wasn't a single logo on it, but the innate luxury radiated with every movement he made. He went downstairs to hail a ride, heading to the largest Audi dealership in Zhangcheng. 40 minutes later, he pushed open the car door and stepped into the spacious showroom. There were over a dozen eye-catching R8 sports cars parked in the display area, with several young men excitedly discussing how to show off and pick up girls on the street. Chen Yi didn't even glance at them, walking straight toward the deepest corner of the showroom. A cement gray RS6 Avant was parked quietly there. On one side of the hall, the senior sales manager, Manager Gao, was flipping through client files. He looked up, his eyes instantly locking onto Chen Yi walking toward the RS6. He didn't look at his face, but instead stared intently at the fabric of that gray short-sleeve shirt, which bore no identification. Under the lights, it cast a uniquely subtle matte glow. This was top-tier Loro Piana Vicuña wool blend. The unit price of this single garment was worth as much as a standard commuter car outside. Manager Gao immediately dropped his files, hurried over with a respectful smile, and bowed slightly. "Good morning, sir. I'm Gao Ming. It's a pleasure to serve you. Are you interested in this most powerful station wagon on the planet?" Chen Yi pulled open the heavy car door, sat into the driver's seat, and ran his fingers over the carbon fiber trim on the center console. He gripped the leather steering wheel. Manager Gao stood outside the car and began reciting the sales pitch. This car is equipped with a 4.0-liter twin-turbo V8 engine. The extreme performance is... Chen Yi spoke up, interrupting him. "Stop." Manager Gao quickly shut his mouth. Chen Yi looked at him, his tone calm. "What is the limit for the in-cabin noise, vibration, and harshness levels? How is the suspension damping performance on the air suspension? And is the low-frequency resolution of the Bang & Olufsen sound system actually good enough?" Having thrown those 3 questions out, Manager Gao was stunned on the spot. The young clients who come to buy an RS6 are always asking about how many seconds it takes to reach 100 km per hour. This guy in front of him, the moment he speaks, only cares about extreme comfort and effortless poise. Manager Gao secretly concluded that this was definitely a young master from the top-tier circle. Out to experience life, he tucked away his standard sales pitch, lowering his voice by 2 octaves. The NVH metrics for the S6. At speeds under 120 km per hour, the cabin noise stays under 60 decibels. The suspension system uses adaptive air shocks, filtering out 90% of minor road vibrations. The sound system is a top-tier custom setup with 19 speakers, with sub-bass reaching down to 30 Hz. Chen Yi nodded slightly. He pushed the door open to step out, casually shutting the door of the top-spec model. "I want the optional carbon ceramic brake discs, and replace all interior trim with dry carbon fiber panels." Manager Gao quickly pulled out his tablet, his fingers flying across the screen. "Mr. Chen, based on your customization requests, the total on-the-road price for this car will be around 2,380,000. Chen Yi remained calm, even though the liquid assets in his black gold card were down to less than 700,000. "I am terribly sorry, Mr. Chen, this configuration you've requested is at the absolute maximum limit. We don't have this in stock at any store in the country. We need to place an order with the Jinggang headquarters. Processing the allocation and the paperwork will take about half a month." Card payment area. Charge a 300,000 deposit. Deposit. Swipe the card. I'll come pick up the car in half a month. I'll settle the balance then. When manager Gao saw this black gold card, which requires a minimum of 10 million to even qualify for, sweat broke out on his back. He held the card with both hands respectfully and ran to the finance office. The entire purchase took less than 20 minutes. Manager Gao bowed at a 90-degree angle the entire way, escorting Chen Yi out. As he stepped out of the 4S dealership, a wave of heat hit him. Deposit. Chen Yi's phone vibrated. The name Zhou Xingjin was flashing on the screen. Chen Yi answered the call. 1488588. Zhou Xingjin's voice sounded familiar. Good morning, Brother Chen. Are you free this noon? I've booked a private room at Tingsong Pavilion. Let's have a casual meal. Chen Yi remembered how this guy was acting like a big shot and lecturing people just yesterday, yet today he was taking the initiative to invite him. A sense of amusement rose in his heart. Chen Yi replied in a calm tone. Since you've invited me, Mr. Zhou, I'm free whenever. He didn't offer any flattered pause and hung up the phone directly. He hailed a taxi. At 12 noon, Tingsong Pavilion, this top-tier private dining restaurant, didn't accept walk-ins, they only recognized members. Chen Yi followed the receptionist to the top-floor private banquet area. It was decorated like a Japanese Karazansui Zen garden. Zhou Xingjin was sitting in front of the tea table. When he saw Chen Yi wearing that pale gray short-sleeve shirt made of top-tier, low-key luxury fabric, his pupils constricted slightly. Brother Chen, please, have a seat. Try this Shifeng Longjing that just arrived. He personally picked up the purple clay teapot to pour the tea. His posture was very humble, clearly intending to make amends and build a connection. Chen Yi picked up the Jianzhan teacup and took a sip. He set the cup down and looked straight at Zhou Xingjin. Good tea with a sweet aftertaste. Not a hint of bitterness. Mr. Zhou, you went to the trouble of inviting me here today, surely it's not just for this cup of tea, is it? The sound of water dripping in the tea room was clear, the atmosphere turned subtle instantly. Brother Chen, you're a straightforward man. The 3 fatal flaws you pointed out at the lounge yesterday. I had my think tank team run simulations overnight. The conclusion is that your judgment was spot on. That merger proposal, I already had people scrap it this morning. He stared intensely at Chen Yi, probing, the Zhangcheng pond is too small. I'm no true dragon, Mr. Zhou. You're giving me way too much credit. I'm just an idle guy, with no intention of buying up any territory. Idle people can step outside the game, and that's how you see the board clearly. The tea is good, but it's a pity the water temperature was too high. It ruined the leaves. The market bubble is too big these days. Everyone is blindly chasing the highs. Whoever pulls the fire back first is the only one who can save a good cup. He delivered his sharp, clear-eyed judgment with a simple, practiced movement. A flash of gold glinted in Zhou Xingjin's eyes. I'm holding a massive private equity fund for new semiconductor materials, but the project has hit a bottleneck. I'd like to invite you, Brother Chen, to join as an independent consultant. Keep an eye on things, you won't have to put up a single penny. Just give us some guidance when things get tough. As soon as he finished speaking, Chen Yi's mind, equipped with master-level financial intuition, automatically began to dissect the industry landscape. The project was headed in the wrong direction. He pinpointed the dilemmas in both the upstream and downstream sectors. The yield rate for upstream monocrystalline silicon is stuck below 65%, and the foreign equipment suppliers have locked down the core parameters. And the production scheduling for the downstream packaging and testing plants is backlogged by at least half a year. Those emerging material companies you've invested in won't have enough cash on their books to survive. For even 3 months, Zhou Xingjin's pupils constricted. He pressed for a solution. Take a detour. Find an old factory that already has legacy production lines, but still qualifies for restructuring. Buy it out and pivot to a remodel to modernize approach. Start with low-end substitutes just to get the cash flow moving. What a brilliant idea, low-end substitutes. Brother Chen, this project of yours counts as your technical contribution. You'll have a 5% stake in the dividends. Besides, I'll pay an initial consulting fee of 5 million, just as a gesture of my sincerity in wanting to be friends with you, Brother Chen. Chen Yi nodded slightly. Mr. Zhou, you're too kind. In that case, I'd be rude to refuse. The deal was officially sealed. The atmosphere relaxed. Zhou Xingjin picked up his teacup and asked which firm Chen Yi was currently working for in the capital. Chen Yi answered in a flat, calm tone. I'm not at any firm. I'm heading to Zhangcheng University the day after tomorrow to start my freshman year. The tea he had just sipped, the Dahong Pao, went straight down his windpipe. His face turned beet red as he coughed violently, staring in disbelief at the young man sitting before him, dressed in a trendy, high-end short-sleeved shirt. At 1 o'clock in the afternoon, Chen Yi walked out of Tingsong Pavilion. His phone buzzed. 5 million in cash hit his account instantly. His current balance was back up to over 5,700,000. Not only was the remaining payment for his RS6 completely worry-free, but his foundation for the next 4 years of college was now rock solid. He hailed a taxi and headed straight for the International Finance Center. Oh, if it isn't Chen Yi. What, saved up enough from months of eating instant noodles again? Here to feast your eyes on things you can't afford? Li Hao, holding onto his heavily made-up girlfriend, raised his voice on purpose. Inside the Apple flagship store at the IFC, Chen Yi was examining the latest MacBook Pro when suddenly, a long, drawling voice came from behind him. Oh, if it isn't Chen Yi? Li Hao walked over with his heavily made-up girlfriend, eyeing Chen Yi askance. What, saved up enough from months of eating instant noodles again? Here to feast your eyes on things you can't afford? He deliberately raised his voice, causing nearby customers to turn and look. This computer, the top spec model, plus the latest phone, tablet, and watch. I want the whole ecosystem, maxed out. Give me 2 sets. The store manager froze for a second before quickly stepping forward to confirm. Feiken didn't even look at Li Hao, his gaze passing right over the guy's shoulder. He spoke directly to the manager. I want the top-of-the-line model for this computer. Plus the latest phone, tablet, and watch. Give me 2 full sets of the top-tier ecosystem gear. The store manager blinked, surprised for a second, then quickly moved forward to double-check. Sir, are you sure? 2 full sets of the top-tier ecosystem? That comes to around 98,000 yuan. Li Hao stood frozen where he was, completely stunned. His girlfriend's eyes lit up, and Feiken pulled out that matte black gold card. He handed it to the manager, and once the payment confirmation sound chimed, the store manager handed over the beautifully packaged bags and the card with both hands. Li Hao just stood there, his mouth slightly agape. He watched helplessly as 100,000 yuan was spent without so much as a blink of an eye. His girlfriend stared at Chen Yi's back, her eyes shining. She couldn't even hide it. After his shower, he stood in front of the floor-to-ceiling panoramic window. He opened his stock trading app and saw a red announcement pop up for Shanghai Energy. The neon lights of Zhangcheng flickered in the night as Chen Yi returned to the Beihui Hotel. He walked out of the shower in his white robe and stood before the panoramic window. He picked up his phone and opened the stock trading app for Shanghai Energy. A bold red announcement bar suddenly popped up on the candlestick chart for Shanghai Energy. It was an announcement regarding a major breakthrough in core patents for solid-state batteries. The announcement was released 2 days earlier than it had been in his past life. Chen Yi received a text from his advisor. It was a notification for the freshman orientation the next morning. He stood by the window, recalling his university days from his previous life, as a text from his advisor, Zhang Lei, popped up on his phone. Attention all Zhangcheng University freshmen, orientation officially begins tomorrow at 8 a.m. Please bring your admission letter and gather at the South District Plaza. Chen Yi stood in front of the window on the 68th floor, his thoughts pulled back to his past life. Back then, he had desperately borrowed money online to buy high-end knockoffs just to fit in with the rich kids. He eventually had to flee Zhangcheng like a clown, but now that he's living this life again, seeing his balance about to break 10 million completely cleared away the absurdity of his past. The next morning, he packed his bags, taking only a few plain-colored t-shirts with no logos, but made of top-quality fabric. He slung his backpack over one shoulder and headed out to report to Zhangcheng University. Chen Yi stepped out of the car, looking at the bustling crowd of freshmen and parents. With his bag over one shoulder, he walked steadily into the South District Plaza. Over an hour later, the taxi pulled up outside the historic gate of Zhangcheng University. The late August heat was sweltering, and the campus was packed with freshmen and parents dragging their luggage. Chen Yi pushed open the door, taking in the scene full of youthful energy. He felt only the calm that comes after weathering many storms. He carried his bag on one shoulder and walked with a steady stride into the vibrant, crowded South District Plaza. Hey, are you a freshman? Are you having trouble finding the registration desk? I'm Shen Qingzu, a sophomore. I can show you the way. Several senior boys nearby saw this happen, and their eyes nearly fell out of their heads. The cold, popular girl from the School of Economics and Management was actually taking the initiative to guide a freshman. Chen Yi gave a slight nod, his demeanor polite but distant. Chen Yi, I'm a freshman at the School of Economics and Management. Thanks, Chen Yi. I'll leave it to you then, senior. Chen Yi shifts his body slightly to the side, signaling for Shen Qingzu to go first. Chen Yi, unlike the other boys, doesn't show any look of awe, just a slight nod. I'm a freshman at the School of Economics and Management. Thanks, Chen Yi. I'll leave it to you then, senior. He naturally turns his body slightly to the side, gesturing for Shen Qingzu to go first. That sense of calm, neither humble nor pushy, leaves a flicker of surprise in Shen Qingzu's eyes. Shen Qingzu walks half a step to Chen Yi's right. Noticing the fabric of his short-sleeved shirt, she recognizes it as a top-tier luxury brand. Loro Piana's Vicuña wool blend, a piece worth 4 years of expenses for an average college student. On the tree-lined path, Shen Qingzu walks half a step to Chen Yi's right. Her gaze drops, landing on the hem of Chen Yi's light gray short-sleeved shirt. It's the pure Vicuña wool blend from the top-tier luxury brand, Loro Piana. There's no flashy logo, but one single garment. Costs as much as an average student's total expenses for 4 years. Shen Qingzu re-evaluates. This freshman carrying a backpack. Shen Qingzu probes, asking for Chen Yi's opinion on the secondary market. Shen Qingzu asks, the semiconductor and new materials sector has been very hot lately, with many institutions pushing targets that claim technological breakthroughs. Do you think this strategy is actually viable? Chen Yi doesn't stop walking. The coursework in the School of Economics and Management is no walk in the park. Shen Qingzu starts the conversation. The semiconductor and new materials sector has been very hot lately, with many institutions pushing targets that claim technological breakthroughs. Do you think this strategy is actually viable? Chen Yi doesn't stop walking. The underlying logic from his conversation with Zhou Hangjian last night is coming in handy now. The direction is completely wrong. The yield rate of upstream monocrystalline silicon is stuck at 65%. Foreign equipment suppliers have locked down the core parameters, and the production scheduling of downstream packaging and testing plants has been backlogged for at least half a year. For a new materials company caught between these two crushing forces to talk about technological breakthroughs is purely wishful thinking. Their capital chain won't last 3 months. Shen Qingzu stops in her tracks. Chen Yi's tone is indifferent, yet every word hits the mark. The direction is completely wrong. The yield rate of upstream monocrystalline silicon is stuck at 65%, and foreign equipment suppliers have locked down the core parameters. The production scheduling of downstream packaging and testing plants has been backlogged for at least half a year. For a new materials company caught between these two crushing forces to talk about technological breakthroughs is purely wishful thinking. Shen Qingzu stops in her tracks. Just last night, at her father's private equity firm's internal meeting, 3 semiconductor projects had just been rejected. The reasons were exactly the same as Chen Yi's analysis. Acquire bankrupt old factories to restructure old production lines, take on the subpar production capacity to do low-end substitution. Get the cash flow rolling first, and then grind away at high-end technology. Shen Qingzu's look at Chen Yi has completely changed. Shen Qingzu breathes, eagerly asking for the way to break the deadlock. Chen Yi puts his hands into his trouser pockets. Acquire bankrupt old factories and restructure old production lines. Take on the subpar production capacity to do low-end substitution. Get the cash flow rolling first, and then grind away at high-end technology. Shen Qingzu stands there, her gaze toward Chen Yi having completely changed. A casual remark from an 18-year-old freshman has hit the core of breaking the deadlock for a $100 billion private equity firm. Chen Yi hands over his admission letter, and picks up the room key. Shen Qingzu pulls out her phone to add him on WeChat, but Chen Yi politely declines. The two walk up to the red tent of the School of Economics and Management. Chen Yi hands over his admission letter. He gets the key to room 402 in the South Campus apartment. Shen Qingzu pulls out her phone and brings up her WeChat QR code. Junior, leave your contact info, she says. All the upperclassmen nearby stop what they are doing. The campus goddess is hitting on him, but Chen Yi just offers a courteous, thin smile. Thanks for showing me the way, senior, but no need to keep in touch. We'll run into each other in our major classes eventually. He turns and merges directly into the crowd of freshmen. Inside the dorm, Zhuo Jing, Xu Yiting, and Luo Lai are each minding their own business. At the South Campus men's apartment, Chen Yi pushes open the ajar door to room 402. Sunlight streams onto the light-colored wooden floor. Zhuo Jing is sitting in a chair, wearing a Bulls jersey. Xu Yiting is standing by the table, holding up a pair of red and black Air Jordans. Luo Lai is wearing BFO noise-canceling headphones, reading The Wealth of Nations in English. All 3 roommates turn to look at the door. Zhuo Jing stands up enthusiastically. Oh hey, our final brother has finally arrived. Xu Yiting raises his chin and points at the limited edition sneakers on the table. Hey man, I'm Xu Yiting. Since you're new, let me lay down some dorm rules. I have high standards, and everything I use is top tier. These shoes are worth $28,000 on the market. When you're walking around the room, watch where you're stepping. If you dirty them, you couldn't pay it back even if you worked part-time for 4 years. Zhuo Jing chuckles twice, trying to ease the tension. Typical tacky nouveau riche. Who are you talking about? Stop acting all high and mighty, you poor thing. Luo Lai puts his headphones back on and goes back to reading The Wealth of Nations by Adam Smith. He completely ignores Xu Yiting's flare-up. Chen Yi ignores the argument, walks straight to his own bed, and says, "Nice to meet you all. Maybe we'll make some money together when we have time." The dorm goes dead silent. Shu Yiding freezes for a second, then bursts into laughter. Chen Yi doesn't even glance at the two who are arguing. He strides right past Shu Yiding, tosses his backpack onto the desk, and says in a flat tone, "It's nice to meet you all. Maybe we'll make some money together when we have time." The room goes quiet instantly. Shu Yiding freezes for 2 seconds, his eyes scanning Chen Yi's plain t-shirt, the one without even a logo. He laughs out loud, trying to force a comeback. Luo Lai chimes in to lecture him, "Although I probably shouldn't say this, I still want to say one thing. We're still young, so it's better to keep our feet on the ground. Don't get any wild ideas, school isn't the place to chase after money. Focusing on your studies at this stage is what really matters." A mechanical voice rings out in Chen Yi's head. Effective suggestion detected. Shu Yiding gives 2 dry coughs. Trying to save face, Luo Lai closes his copy of The Wealth of Nations, turns his head to lecture him, "Although I probably shouldn't say this, I still want to say one thing. We're still young, so it's better to keep our feet on the ground. Don't get any wild ideas, school isn't the place to chase after money. Focusing on your studies at this stage is what really matters." As soon as he finishes speaking, a mechanical voice rings in Chen Yi's mind. Ding. Valid trigger detected. I suggest you stay grounded. Chen Yi remains unmoved by Luo Lai's patronizing advice. He reaches over, unzips his backpack, and pulls out a textbook on Western economics, placing it on the table. He feels calm inside, with nearly 10 million in his bank account. He sees clearly now just how absurd his past life was. Chen Yi rests his fingers on the table, remembering his past self, stubborn, snapping back, yet forced to act humble, only to end up a complete mess. Now, with nearly 10 million in cash, looking at Luo Lai's preachy, self-important attitude, he just finds him comically naive. He raises an eyebrow, neither angry nor annoyed, and unzips his backpack. He pulls out a professional textbook on Western economics and sets it on the table. Back in the dorm, Chen Yi had said, "Luo Xiao is always right," which made Luo Lai expect him to jump up and argue back. Luo Lai even had classical economic quotes ready to go, but to his surprise, Chen Yi just followed up with, "You're right, I really should focus on my studies at this stage. I'll listen to you." Since he actually brought out the textbook, Luo Lai's face turns green. He holds his breath for a long moment, unable to squeeze out a single word. He can only gloomily put on his headphones. A system notification chimes in Chen Yi's mind, informing him of an action, evaluation complete. Class A critical strike reward issued. A sudden wave of clarity surges to his mind. He scans the textbook cover, the title, the publisher, and even the tiny creases. It's all etched into his memory as if copied onto a hard drive. The complex commercial data and candlestick charts from his past life are now also neatly categorized, ready for him to use at any time. His phone vibrates. A transfer of 100,000 has just hit his account ending in 3341. Chen Yi almost laughs out loud. His roommate just casually dropped 2 sentences and it turned into cash? That's some easy money. Seeing the atmosphere become awkward, Zuo Jing quickly steps into the middle of the dorm to smooth things over, suggesting they go grab a meal at his family's restaurant. Shu Yiding, disgusted, stares at his $28,000 limited edition Air Jordans and says he doesn't want to go to a greasy spoon, insisting on taking everyone to a high-end restaurant in the city center. Chen Yi says, appearing completely indifferent, "I think I should try this food too." The guest should follow the host's lead. He leads the way out the door. It is high noon in Zhangcheng, with the sun blazing overhead. The 4 of them walk side by side along the tree-lined path. Shu Yiding chatters away, swinging his arm to show off his watch to assert his status, while Luo Lai keeps his eyes on the ground, avoiding dirty spots. Chen Yi alone walks in the middle, his gait calm and relaxed, making the passing upperclassman girl's eyes drift toward him involuntarily. Half an hour later, they turn into the old street of Changla. They walk into a shop called Old Zuo's Eatery. Zuo's father comes out from the back kitchen, holding a spatula, while Zuo's mother wipes the table again and again. Shu Yiding, disgusted by the greasy look of the plastic stools, stands stiffly and refuses to sit. Luo Lai pulls out disinfecting wipes and, right in front of Zuo Jing's parents, wipes the stool 3 times before sitting down. Chen Yi casually pulls out a stool and sits, expertly scalding his bowl and chopsticks, smelling the pungent, oily smoke. He actually feels completely at ease. Zuo's father serves the signature dish. Chen Yi picks up his chopsticks, grabs a large piece of fish belly, and shovels in a big mouthful of rice. He turns and gives Zuo's mother a thumbs up for her cooking. As Chen Yi gobbles down his rice, Shu Yiding can't resist the aroma of the stir-fried pork kidneys any longer. He picks up a small piece and pops it into his mouth, and the crispy, tender texture just explodes. He couldn't care less about his image, wolfing down several bites of meat and half a bowl of rice. Seeing this, Luo Lai silently tucked his wet wipe back into his pocket. He only picked up a few water spinach leaves, chewing them slowly. Zuo Mu brought over some soup and complimented Chen Yi, saying he looked cool even when eating so heartily. After the meal, the four of them left, and Xu Yiting, wanting to save face, raised his voice, announcing he'd take them to a 5-star hotel his family had just invested in. Luo Lai didn't take the bait, but Zuo Jing played along, saying that sounded like a great plan. Hearing that, Xu Yiting immediately perked up, loudly reciting his father's engineering project contracts and new energy investments. Walking along the main campus road, Xu Yiting deliberately fiddled with his hair, showing off a Longines watch on his wrist. The senior girl's gazes swept past his designer jacket and watch, only to land squarely on Chen Yi, who was trailing half a step behind. Chen Yi was wearing a gray short-sleeved shirt with no logos. Yet the sheen of the fabric exuded an indescribable air of elegance. The senior girls whispered to each other as they walked. Zuo Jing laughed and said, "Xu Xiao, your Longines doesn't seem to be working." Luo Lai chimed in, calling him a walking billboard. Xu Yiting, furious, pointed at Chen Yi's plain shirt and told him, "Next time you buy clothes, get something with a big logo. Don't make me look bad when I'm out with you." Chen Yi agreed readily, and the system suddenly triggered a reward. A passive skill, top-tier luxury goods connoisseur, plus 200,000 in cash. An overwhelming flood of global luxury brand information exploded in his mind. "Yi, regarding the restructuring proposal you mentioned this afternoon, could you spare some time to talk about it in detail?" Xu Yiting and Luo Lai froze. Zuo Jing held back a laugh, giving Chen Yi a thumbs up. Chen Yi refused with a calm expression. "I'm afraid that won't be possible. I'm sorry, senior, but our class meeting is about to start." With that, he strode past Shen Qingzu and into the teaching building without stopping, let alone asking for her contact information. Shen Qingzu stood there, stunned, holding her phone. In the hallway, Xu Yiting grabbed Chen Yi and asked in a low voice, "How do you know Shen Qingzu?" Chen Yi pulled his arm away and said nonchalantly, "I ran into her when I was asking for directions. We just chatted a bit about financial news." Xu Yiting was left completely baffled. The lecture hall was noisy, filled with several hundred economics freshmen. The four of them picked seats in the back near the window. The girls in front were whispering about Chen Yi's clothes, calling them vintage chic and mocking those wearing big logos as being country bumpkins. Xu Yiting looked down at his own 28,000 yuan red and black Air Jordans and high street jacket, grumbling in frustration, "What a bunch of women who know nothing. They have no taste at all." The counselor, Zhang Lei, stepped up and tapped the microphone, announcing the freshman icebreaker and class committee elections. As the election began, Luo Lai stood up, straightened his shirt collar, and walked to the podium with ease. He started with an impeccable London accent, "Good evening, everyone." Then he switched to Chinese, covering everything from his personal resume to his vision for class building. Every word was purposeful, radiating the refined, golden aura of someone raised in a century-old family. The girls in the front row stared at him fixedly. Xu Yiting curled his lip and whispered under his breath. Chen Yi watched Luo Lai on stage, thinking that this 18-year-old young master definitely had some polish and talent. It was a landslide victory. After Luo Lai was elected class monitor by a unanimous vote, and the rest of the class committee was finalized, the counselor announced that military training would begin at 6:30 tomorrow morning, just as a few sophomores walked in, dragging large woven plastic bags. They were there to hand out the training uniforms. The moment the bags were opened, a pungent chemical smell instantly filled the air, and the classroom erupted in chaos. A night breeze blew through the campus path as the four of them carried their uniforms toward the South District dorms. Xu Yiting held the camouflage uniform with just 2 fingers, keeping the collar half a meter away from him. He complained that the fabric was even worse than the synthetic stuff used at construction sites, although Luo Lai didn't make a scene. His furrowed brow and held breath betrayed his own disgust. Once back in dorm 402, Xu Yiting refused to zip the jacket all the way up, showing off the logo on his designer shirt underneath and rolling up his pant cuffs to display his Air Jordans. He struck poses in front of the mirror like a maniac, leaving Zuo Jin staring in bewilderment. Meanwhile, Luo Lai called the most expensive high-end dry cleaner in the city for an urgent, at-home service. Early the next morning at 5:30, Luo Lai took his treated uniform out of a garment bag. He wore it with the crispness of a high-end suit, and it even gave off a woody scent. Chen Yi nimbly slipped into his camouflage, zipping it all the way to the collar, splashed his face with water, and looked neat and sharp. Xu Yiting was busy perfecting his hair in front of the mirror, and by 6:15, The freshmen were beginning to assemble on the South District track, the formations in complete disarray. Xu Yiting was wearing his 28,000 yuan Air Jordans, while Chen Yi had his collar loose and his sleeves rolled up. Zuo Jin came jogging over, his expression shifting as he said he'd just heard some seniors talking. This year's drill instructors were all pulled from frontline combat units. They were hardcore guys who specialized in breaking in rebels and troublemakers, so he advised them to get their uniforms in order. The system prompted that a valid suggestion was detected, so Chen Yi didn't hesitate to pull his zipper up to the very top, drop the collar, and button his sleeves tight. He tucked his pant legs neatly into his standard-issue canvas shoes. The system rated him a grade and rewarded him with mastery of top-tier military combat techniques. 100,000 yuan in cash, and 3 stamina potions. Xu Yiting mocked him for being a coward, insisting he wouldn't change his shoes, saying that even if the heavens themselves came down, he wouldn't swap them out. Chen Yi just smiled and said, "Is that so? Well then, good luck to you." At 7 in the morning, the sun was blazing when a dark-skinned, stern-faced instructor marched into the management major's formation. His gaze swept over the crowd like a blade, and the noisy atmosphere went dead silent instantly. The instructor stopped in front of Xu Yiting, pointed at his flashy red and black sneakers, and said, "What kind of gaudy piece of junk is this?" Xu Yiting opened his mouth and retorted, "Instructor, these shoes cost 28,000. Is it illegal for me to wear my own shoes?" The instructor sneered, pointed to an empty space to the side, and said, 50 push-ups. "Do them now." Xu Yiting was already panting after not even 10. The instructor turned and walked over to Luo Lai, criticizing him for wearing glasses with reflective metal frames and having his buttons done up too tight. Luo Lai flushed red as he took off his glasses and unbuttoned his collar. The cool, detached persona he'd meticulously maintained was completely shattered on the very first day. After Xu Yiting finished his 15 push-ups, he collapsed onto the track, seeing out of the corner of his eye that Chen Yi's uniform was perfectly sharp. The instructor didn't even glance at Chen Yi, who cursed under his breath. The instructor then ordered everyone to stand at attention for 30 minutes, as the sun grew increasingly fierce. Xu Yiting had finally finished his 50 push-ups, and he was completely wiped out. The sweat had turned his hair gel into a sticky mess, and his AJ sneakers were too soft, leaving his arches aching like crazy. Luo Lai's back was soaked through with sweat. Without his glasses, everything looked like a blurry double image. Chen Yi, on the other hand, stood with his legs spread at a 60-degree angle, hands pressed firmly against his pant seams, standing rock solid. He wasn't even breathing hard. The instructor paused beside him for 2 seconds, nodded, and walked away. The whistle for a break finally blew. The formation instantly collapsed. Xu Yiting sprawled out flat on his back on the grass. Chen Yi stretched his ankles, getting ready to head for the shade. Suddenly, a girl in the front row named Su Xiaoxiao went limp and tipped straight backward. The girls around her shrieked and scrambled away, but Chen Yi was quick as a flash. He stepped out with his left foot and caught Su Xiaoxiao's shoulder precisely with his right hand. Using one arm, he half carried and half supported her, bringing her to the shade 10 meters away and clearing the crowd. He knelt on one knee and pulled a piece of White Rabbit creamy candy from his pocket. He unwrapped it, held it to her lips, and said calmly, "Low blood sugar. Keep the candy in your mouth, don't swallow it yet. Take a moment." Su Xiaoxiao, still dazed, took the candy. The intense sweetness helped her recover. She opened her eyes and looked right into Chen Yi's face. The girls nearby saw the whole thing and thought that this kind of smooth, decisive handling was way better than trying to look cool. Chen Yi stood up, leaned against the tree trunk, and took a drink of water. In the distance, Xu Yiting was still massaging his calves. Chen Yi suddenly felt a sense of satisfaction. In his past life, he'd passed out from hunger on the first day of military training and became a laughingstock for the instructor to chew out. Now, with millions in his pocket and his body completely rebuilt, those days of embarrassment were ancient history. "Brother Yi, that move just now was legendary. The way Su Xiaoxiao looked at you after that, something's definitely going on." Chen Yi twisted the cap back on his bottle and didn't take the bait. Xu Yiting hobbled over and plopped down on the grass, looking an absolute mess. On the campus tree-lined path, Xu Yiting complained, "Zuo Jin, your standards are way too low. Su Xiaoxiao is fine, but compared to Shen Qingzu, who was chatting up Chen Yi yesterday, she's not even close." Luo Lai stood nearby drinking water, but his ears perked up. Zuo Jin laughed, and waved his hand. "Young Master Xu, you don't know the inside scoop. It's true that Shen Qingzu comes from a good family, but do you guys really think she's the best our Zhang University has to offer?" He lowered his voice and said mysteriously, "The real big boss of our school is the head of the sophomore broadcasting station, Ning Yao." As soon as he finished speaking, Chen Yi, leaning against the tree, paused slightly. Xu Yiting was instantly intrigued. How awesome is Ning Yao? Zuo Jin started gesturing wildly as he described her. She has a heavenly look, super cold and aloof. Like someone who doesn't want anyone getting close. Last semester, a senior whose family owned a mine drove a Ferrari to the girls' dorm and made a big confession with roses all over the ground. Xu Yiting interrupted. Shen Qingzu probably wouldn't even look at him. Zuo Jin continued. Shen Qingzu ignored him, but Ning Yao was on duty at the broadcasting station at the time and just cut the entire school's broadcast right there. She used 3 quotes from classic literature to completely tear apart that rich kid who thought his money gave him the right to act like a creep, with tens of thousands of students listening in. The guy was so humiliated he practically died on the spot, and by the next day, his sports car was already gone. Zuo Jing was gushing about it so much she didn't even get to see him. Xu Yiting was listening, completely stunned, while Luo Lai just adjusted his glasses. Staying silent, that kind of aloof personality hit his aesthetic preferences perfectly. Chen Yi was still leaning against the tree trunk, fiddling with a plastic water bottle. Images from his past life flashed through his mind. It was that day in the pouring rain, he'd lost every cent investing in online loans. And was being shunned by everyone as a pathetic con artist, sitting all alone on the stadium steps, soaking wet. Back then, Ning Yao passed by holding a black umbrella without saying a word. She just calmly placed a spare folding umbrella on the step beside him. Then turned and walked into the curtain of rain. In the eyes of all the boys at school, Ning Yao was an unreachable, icy upperclassman, but in Chen Yi's memory, she was the only shadow that stopped during that downpour. The umbrella itself didn't matter. Natural mineral water, but to Chen Yi, who was on the brink of a breakdown at the time. In that dark phase of his life, Ning Yao was the only one who had ever cared about him. He tightened the cap on his water bottle. In the adult world, there's not much room for mindless crushes. Help offered during a crisis is the most valuable thing of all. Now that he has 8 million in cash in his account, he decided to find a chance to pay her back. Not for romance, just out of gratitude and duty. A sharp whistle cut through the sports field. Instructor Zhao Tijun shouted with a dark face, "Attention everyone. Assemble in 30 seconds. Xu Yiting groaned, pushing himself up from the ground, complaining, "I can't live like this. I've never suffered like this in my entire life." Luo Lai gritted his teeth, forcing himself to stand straight despite the soreness, while Chen Yi pushed off the ground with one hand, stood up cleanly, and walked into the formation with a steady breath. Under the scorching sun, hundreds of people lifted their right legs. In less than 1 minute, groans of complaint filled the air. Zhao Tijun yelled loudly, "Keep your legs straight. Whoever wobbles adds 1 minute." Xu Yiting stood on one leg, shaking all over. Veins bulged on Luo Lai's forehead, while Chen Yi stood as steady as a rock on his one leg. His core strength fully engaged. Zhao Tijun pressed on his shoulder, praising him, "You're a natural. Go to the front of the squad as the demonstration lead." Chen Yi stepped out of the formation with sharp, crisp movements, drawing glances from the girls' formation nearby. Su Xiaoxiao was twisting a candy wrapper in her hand, staring straight at Chen Yi's profile. A girl with short hair whispered in her ear, "He's so handsome. And he's not greasy at all." Back in the squad, Xu Yiting was so jealous he was practically grinding his teeth, while Luo Lai mused to himself. The physical fitness and focus this guy has, there's no way he learned that in an ordinary family. After being dismissed, the four headed to the cafeteria. Xu Yiting found it too greasy, so he told Zuo Jin to buy instant noodles. Luo Lai cleaned his utensils, ordering only plain vegetables, while Chen Yi marched over and got 2 portions of braised pork with rice. Devouring his meal, in the middle of eating, Chen Yi pulled out his brand new top-tier iPhone to reply to the counselor. Xu Yiting saw it and was completely shell-shocked. Yesterday, he was still mocking Chen Yi for wearing clothes without logos, but today, the phone the other guy pulled out so casually totally crushed his spending power. BAENCIA GA, 8 p.m. Enciaga. In the dorm, Xu Yiting took off his Air Jordans. TAENCIAGA, his heels had worn down into 2 large, bloody blisters. ANCTAGA. Luo Lai secretly took out some high-end repair gel to apply, while Chen Yi unzipped his backpack and tossed a white cardboard box onto Xu Yiting's desk. Leaning back in his chair, Chen Yi said, "It's medical-grade hydrocolloid dressing. It's more waterproof and prevents chafing better than a Band-Aid. Put it on and keep wearing your Air Jordans tomorrow, you won't feel a thing." Xu Yiting, half doubting, stuck it on. A cooling sensation covered the wound, and the pain significantly decreased. His face was full of disbelief. "Damn, this stuff is amazing. You even keep this kind of thing on hand?" Chen Yi replied casually, "I looked up the intensity of the military training in advance, so I just bought it." Xu Yiting scratched his head and muttered, "Thanks, brother Yi." Once the military training is over, I'm going to drop 20,000 yuan to sponsor the student union. And land the position of Minister of Outreach. The student union looks at personal ability and networking. Not just which nouveau riche can throw money around. The two looked at each other. The atmosphere tense. At that moment, Chen Yi spoke up. Wait. You can sponsor, but don't just give them cash. Get 2 cases of high-end bottled water and some sunscreen, put up a banner with your company's name. And bring it directly to the training field to show appreciation for the student union staff. That way, you gain a reputation and turn the favors from the seniors into a resource exchange. That is the core of outreach. The dorm went silent for 2 seconds. Luo Lai's eyes snapped open in the darkness. These tactics were too sophisticated. They hit the nail on the head. This is not something an 18-year-old freshman would think to do. The next morning, the campus queen, Shen Zuqing, dressed in a white t-shirt and a pleated skirt, pushed a cart of iced mung bean soup into the field. The boys around her instantly grew restless, yet she ignored all the fawning gazes. And walked straight up to Chen Yi, handing him a cup and saying, "We didn't finish discussing the proposal yesterday afternoon. You'll be free once the military training ends today, right?" The whole crowd went dead silent. Chen Yi took the water, drank a sip, and calmly refused. "The military training is too exhausting, my brain isn't working. Let's talk in a few days." He had actually, in front of hundreds of people, rejected the campus queen. "What kind of love potion did you give him?" "Maybe it's because my marching drill is more up to standard." Luo Lai stood to the side, his gaze deep and thoughtful, raising his estimation of Chen Yi even higher. During a break in the military training, Chen Yi sat alone in the shade and pulled out his phone to check his stock trading app. Shinei Energy, hitting the daily limit. His portfolio value was 7.7 million, with a daily floating profit of 700,000. He locked his screen with a blank expression. Towards dusk, the campus broadcast station turned on. A cool, gentle voice of a girl started speaking. "Good evening, fellow students. This is the Zhangde broadcast station. I am the station manager, Ning Yao. I will be broadcasting today's military training bulletin for everyone." Upon hearing that voice, Chen Yi's movement of smoothing his cough suddenly froze. He looked up. His gaze drifts through the crowd, fixed on the towering broadcast tower in the distance. He recalls that rainy afternoon in his past life, when he felt like a stray dog. Sitting on the stadium steps, drenched in the downpour, a black folding umbrella resting quietly beside him. That was the only sliver of kindness he ever felt while trapped in that abyss. "That's the voice of our school's big boss. You really don't want to mess with that woman." In Zhangde, very few people have that kind of vision. Chen Yi didn't join in the discussion. He remembers his past life, 5 years after graduation. At a dinner on the top floor of the Yanjing World Trade Hotel, wearing a rented suit. 10 meters away, he saw Ning Yao surrounded by investors, finally taking half a step back. He didn't go up to thank her and returned to reality. Shu nudged his shoulder with an elbow, pressing for an answer. Chen Yi crushed the plastic water bottle. Tossing it into a recycling bin 2 meters away, Chen Yi brushed the grass clippings off his hands. His tone was flat. "There's nothing to talk about regarding people or things I don't know. Everyone's just starting the semester. It's more practical to focus on what's right in front of us." Just as he finished speaking, a mechanical chime echoed in his mind. Detection effective. Suggestion. Focus on what's right in front of us, confirmed. Activation criteria met. Critical hit reward issued. Energy recovery potion ×3, and $50,000 in cash. A faint vibration came from his pocket. His roommate was showering him with gold. This way of acquiring funds is simple and efficient. "Brother Yi, that $20,000 advice of yours saved me so much wasted effort." They walked along, deep in thought. Chen Yi's choice was right. The internal structure of the student union was a mess. The return on investment is extremely low, Chen Yi concluded. 3. The resources are off campus. 3. They aren't in the student union. 3. The two reached a silent, perfect understanding in their thinking. In the evening, the group strolled to the central plaza. Elite membership. Start your elite life. The 100 group wars were in full swing. A junior wearing a glossy suit stood in front of a red-top tent, waving a folder and shouting, "Elite membership. Just pay the $2,000 elite fee to join the core circle. Enter the game now and share the original dividends." Shu's eyes lit up. He took out his phone and said, "Senior, I'll scan for 20,000 right now. Just arrange a vice president position for me." Unexpectedly, the senior stepped back, his face turning cold, using a string of buzzwords about ecosystem closed-loop underlying logic to leave him speechless. The surrounding freshmen let out mocking laughter. "Cut the crap about ecosystem closed-loop. Your project, to put it bluntly, is just picking up rotten vegetables from the market that nobody wants, wrapping them in plastic, and slapping on a fake company stamp. Then selling them as high-priced organic produce." The senior's face turned pale. He tried to argue back, but Chen Yi continued bluntly. There's a financial hole of 300 or 500,000, right? You just want to take the fresh cash from these freshmen. To fill the bad debts from when you got scammed buying stock. Take your rotten vegetables and get out. If you dare to hang this banner and cheat people out of membership fees again, the campus security will be here in 5 minutes. The surrounding crowd erupted and the freshmen gripped their pockets tightly. The senior packed his things and slunk away. Chen Yi also retracted his gaze. He said coldly, take your rotten vegetables and get out of here. If you dare to keep scamming for fees with that banner, the campus security will be here in 5 minutes. The surrounding crowd burst into an uproar. The freshmen backed away, clutching their pockets. The slick-haired senior was dripping with sweat. His lips trembled twice, but in the end, he didn't dare to say a single word in rebuttal. He packed up his things and slunk out of the plaza, with everyone's eyes on him. Chen Yi sheepishly turned off the speakers and grabbed the folder off the table. He didn't even have time to take down the banner, he just bolted through the crowd and ran. Xu Yiting stood there, breaking out in a cold sweat. He thought to himself that if Chen Yi hadn't stopped him just now, his 20,000 yuan would have really gone down the drain. That was awesome, brother Yi. How on earth is your brain wired? You completely exposed that jerk in just a few sentences. I'm in awe, brother Yi. That line about the rotten cabbage just now was legendary. Luo Lai stood not far away, watching Chen Yi's back. A sense of awe rose in his heart for Luo Lai. He had expected Chen Yi to fire back with macroeconomic data, but Chen Yi chose the most grounded, plain language possible. Luo Lai let out a long sigh, feeling a newfound respect for this roommate he had only known for 2 days. Chen Yi ignored the exclamations, turned around, and said, let's go. As he walked back along the main road, the night breeze brushed through the treetops. The leaves rustled as Chen Yi took a couple of steps. He glanced at the edge of the crowd and stopped in his tracks. 10 meters away, under a dim streetlight, Ning Yao stood there in a clean white shirt and light-colored jeans. She was holding a blue radio station folder, standing quietly at the edge of the light and shadow. Her cool, aloof aura seemed to cut through the surrounding noise, and Ning Yao tilted her head slightly. Her calm eyes swept past the crowd of freshmen and landed directly on Chen Yi. Across those 10 meters, their gazes collided in the noisy night. Even with the deafening noise around him, Chen Yi stood frozen in place. With his hands in his pockets, he didn't take another step forward. Looking at that cool, aloof face, the memory of a black umbrella in a heavy downpour from his past life flashed through his mind. Ning Yao had been standing there for 10 minutes and had watched the whole thing. She had seen Chen Yi tear apart that senior's investment scam with a single line about rotten cabbage. Xu Yiting followed Chen Yi's gaze and turned his head, shuddering violently. Holy crap, it's the demon queen, Ning Yao. He gasped, catching his breath. He started frantically patting his hair down to flatten it. He pushed his watch to a more visible position as Ning Yao started walking over. She approached with a steady, unhurried pace, and the freshmen subconsciously stepped aside. They cleared a path for her, and Xu Yiting took a deep breath. He stepped forward ahead of everyone else, straightening his cuffs, and said, Hello, Senior Ning Yao, I'm a freshman in the economics department, Xu Yiting. He tried to sound sophisticated, but the air went silent for 2 seconds. Beside him, Zuo Jing was cringing so hard her toes were curling in her shoes. Hello, Junior. The blister bandage on your foot is a bit crooked. If your soles are too soft, you should switch to hard-soled shoes for military training tomorrow, otherwise you'll easily hurt your arches. This down-to-earth piece of advice completely punctured Xu Yiting's facade. He backed away in embarrassment, and Luo Lai adjusted his collar and stepped up. Luo Lai walked up and said, Senior Ning Yao, I've heard a lot about you. I'm Luo Lai. I've read your work in the school newspaper before. That piece on the chaos of sinking markets in the new economic cycle. He was confident that would resonate with her. Ning Yao just smiled politely. Thank you for the recognition, classmate Luo. Your shirt pressing technique is quite good. However, the cedarwood scent used by your dry cleaner is a bit too strong. That remark instantly shattered his sophisticated facade, leaving Luo Lai's expression frozen. Stepping back half a pace, Min Yao's gaze swept past the three of them and landed on Chen Yi as she spoke up on her own initiative. The rotten vegetable analogy is spot on. Your understanding of the lower-tier market, freshman, is more insightful than that of many junior finance students. Xu Yiting's eyes nearly popped out of their sockets, leaving Luo Lai's hand stiff in midair. Yet, Chen Yi responded calmly, it's just common sense. You flatter me, senior. He showed no sign of being overwhelmed by the attention. Get some rest early, freshman. Min Yao's gaze swept past the three of them and landed on Chen Yi as she spoke up on her own initiative. The rotten vegetable analogy is spot on. Your understanding of the lower-tier market, freshman, is more insightful than that of many junior finance students. Xu Yiting's eyes nearly popped out of their sockets, leaving Luo Lai's hand stiff in midair. Yet, Chen Yi responded calmly, "It's just common sense. You flatter me, senior." He showed no sign of being overwhelmed by the attention. Holy crap, that was Ning Yao. You actually replied with, "Just common sense." When a lady of that caliber is discussing how to pick up rotten vegetables at the market, he decided to apply for a position at the broadcasting station tomorrow. Fan was mentally calculating his own overseas project experience. He absolutely could not lose to Chen Yi. Zuo Jin grabbed Xu Yiting, telling him that a girl of that caliber wasn't someone they should be pining for. 11:30 at night, the power in the dormitory went out. Plunged into darkness, Chen Yi lay flat on his bed. His passive skill, deep sleep quality enhancement, kicked in, but he didn't close his eyes right away. In his mind, the black umbrella from the heavy rain in his past life merged with the sight of Ning Yao under the street lamp tonight. He turned over, and his wooden bed let out a faint creak. Hearing Chen Yi turn, Luo Lai spoke up in the darkness. Insomnia? When there was no answer, Luo Lai leaned forward and asked again. Because of Ning Yao? Chen Yi rested his hands behind his head. His tone returned to its usual flatness. You're overthinking it. Luo Lai leaned back against the wall, chuckled softly, and didn't press the matter further. He reached out to turn off the reading lamp, and the dormitory fell into total silence. On the 7th day of military training, Xu Yiting had only made it through thanks to the medicated pads Chen Yi gave him. During standing posture drills, the young master's pampered attitude had long been thrown to the winds. He now called him Brother Yi at every turn, calling out quite diligently. Luo Lai secretly observed Chen Yi's posture and breathing rhythm, discovering that his physical fitness was simply not something a typical college freshman should have. With his mastery of military boxing, Chen Yi had become the pillar of the entire platoon, and every demonstration he gave was crisp and clean. Old Zuo, I'm booking the whole private club in the city center tomorrow. He turned his head to ask Chen Yi. Chen Yi said he needed to go to the city center to pick something up. Xu Yiting pulled out his phone, intending to transfer 5,000. Chen Yi raised a hand to block Luo Lai. He pressed his hand on Xu Yiting's shoulder and said that if Chen Yi had things to do, he shouldn't be forced. Saturday morning, Chen Yi changed into a light gray short-sleeve shirt and black casual pants, then took a taxi to Wutong Road. He pushed open the rosewood door of the Kayan studio, and the scent of agarwood and leather washed over him. Old Lu, holding two minimalist, solid black dust-proof paper bags in both hands, said respectfully, Mr. Chen, these are the 2 Phantom Series autumn coats you customized. All 3 pairs of custom Oxford shoes are finished. After checking the fabric, Chen Yi pulls out his black gold credit card to pay the balance. Carrying 2 paper bags filled with high-end custom apparel, Chen Yi walks out of the studio. Passing by the indoor basketball court, he sees Xu Yiting being crushed by 3 tall jocks. The score is 18-4. Zuo Jin is drenched in sweat when he catches sight of Chen Yi outside the glass wall. He frantically taps on the glass, Brother Yi, help. Chen Yi shakes his head, pushes open the glass door, and walks onto the court. As Xu Yiting runs over to explain, Chen Yi tosses the paper bags onto the bench. Without changing his shoes, he steps onto the court, and the guy with the buzz cut mocks Chen Yi's casual outfit. Hey, suit boy, stop posturing. Is this what a pro wears? Roll up those pant legs. Don't trip yourself and break your leg later. Chen Yi stops Xu Yiting. He bends down to roll up his pant legs, revealing his ankles. Xu Yiting comes scrambling over, crawling and stumbling. He says these jocks are picking a fight on purpose and playing dirty. Chen Yi places his paper bags, worth hundreds of thousands, casually on the bench and doesn't bother changing his shoes. With one hand in his pocket, he walks to the mid-court line. The guy with the buzz cut looks him up and down. Mockingly, he says, Freshman, stop trying to act cool. Is this what a pro wears? Roll up your pants. Don't trip over yourself and break a leg. Chen Yi bends down. He rolls his pant legs up twice with both hands. Serve the ball, I've got to get back to campus once this is done. The game restarts. Chen Yi stands outside the 3-point line. His stance is incredibly relaxed. The guy with the buzz cut sneers and steps up. He tries to steal the ball, but Chen Yi doesn't even blink. Using his god-tier basketball vision, he delivers a precise pass. He slides it into the paint to Luo Lai, who easily banks it off the board for a bucket. Chen Yi is playing a low-energy, laid-back game, no ball hogging, no hesitation. Every pass cuts through the defense like a scalpel. Luo Lai is stunned by Chen Yi's ability to control the floor. The whole team's offense becomes perfectly fluid, and the score is tied at 18-18. On the final possession, the opponents double-team Chen Yi. Chen Yi uses a pump fake and then fires a bounce pass to the corner for Xu Yiting. Holy crap, we won. Brother Yi, you're a legend. Xu Yiting nails the 3-point buzzer beater to make it 21-18. Chen Yi barely even dribbled, but every pass was like a precision scalpel, slicing through their defense. The team's offense flows effortlessly, and the score is tied at 18-18. On the final play, the opponents double-team Chen Yi. He sells a pump fake, then flicks his wrist to bounce the ball out to the corner. Xu Yiting catches it and lets it fly, a swish from downtown. 21-18, a buzzer beater. The court erupts with Zuo Jin's cheering. Holy crap, we won. Brother Yi, you're the best. Xu Yiting runs toward Chen Yi, excited. Brother Yi, you went all the way to the city center on a weekend just to buy this stuff? It doesn't even have a brand name on it. Just some cheap generic gear. As long as it's comfortable to wear. Luo Lai glances at the bags while wiping his sweat. He suddenly freezes at the sight of that black, cold-pressed luster in the silk lining. This is clearly exclusive packaging from a top-tier haute couture workshop, as the four of them finish packing up their things. They push open the gym doors, and a wave of heat rushes toward them. On the main path, a few girls are walking their way. Walking right in the center is the campus sweetheart, wearing a pure white t-shirt and high-waisted jeans. Shen Zuqing is holding a stack of debate materials, originally chatting with the girl beside her about something. When she spots Chen Yi walking toward her, her cool, composed eyes brighten slightly. She stops in her tracks immediately. Chen Yi, about this afternoon. The school debate team is having a session. On the internal projections for the new energy sinking market, your insights from last time were very unique. Would you be interested in sitting in and offering some guidance? Xu Yiting gets anxious and starts pacing, desperately winking at Chen Yi. He's practically dying to say yes for him, yet Chen Yi just carries the paper bag full of haute couture. I sweated a lot playing ball this afternoon, so I want to head back to the dorm to shower and catch up on sleep. Wish you all a smooth debate. With that, he gives a slight nod, and walks straight past Shen Zuqing, heading toward the South District dorms. The girls behind Shen Zuqing are so shocked their jaws are practically hitting the floor. Someone actually used showering and catching up on sleep as an excuse to reject her. Xu Yiting is stomping his feet in frustration, muttering that Chen Yi must have water in his brain. But Shen Zuqing stands right there, watching Chen Yi's tall, straight back, and instead of feeling annoyed, she feels her curiosity growing even stronger. Back in the dorm, Xu Yiting hasn't even changed his shoes yet. And he's sitting straddled on his chair in high spirits, wiping sweat from his forehead as he says, Brother Yi. That blind pass of yours was insane. The faces of those sports students went green. They usually run wild on the South District court, but today they didn't even dare to let out a peep. Zuo Jing pours himself a glass of cold water and gulps down more than half of it. Complimenting Xu Yiting's 3-point accuracy, Xu Yiting drops his young master attitude and stands up straight, solemnly declaring, Brother Yi, from now on, you're the big boss on the court. Whoever doesn't respect you, this young master will be the first one to take issue with them. Chen Yi just pulls open his closet, digs out a short-sleeved shirt, and says, just a coincidence, before heading off to shower. The sound of running water begins shortly after. Luo Lai walks in from the balcony with a towel rubbing his hair, his gaze landing on the paper bag on Chen Yi's desk. He finds that exquisite packaging somewhat familiar. He notices, the surface of the paper bag has a cold-pressed matte finish, and the handle stitching looks like handcrafted calfskin. Even the dust-proof inner lining at the opening is nearly heavyweight silk. This definitely isn't some cheap street market find. It looks more like the work of a niche designer workshop. The hand-rubbing Luo Lai's hair slows down. Luo Lai recalls Chen Yi's ease on the court and his indifferent attitude when rejecting Shen Zuqing. This freshman is full of contradictions. His curiosity is completely piqued. He walks to the desk, pours a glass of warm water, and sets it by Chen Yi's spot. Deciding to re-evaluate the status of this roommate, the sound of water stops. Chen Yi walks out wearing a gray cotton t-shirt, his hair half dry. Luo Lai sheds his usual aloofness and speaks up, you played great today. Chen Yi glances at the water glass on the desk and responds calmly, you ran to the open spots well. He then climbs onto his top bunk. The power structure of the dormitory has silently been reshaped. Chen Yi lies flat on his bed, unlocking his phone with one hand. He opens a stock trading app, where the K-line chart for Shinei New Energy shows a red horizontal line locked tightly at the daily limit. The stock hit its 5th limit up, and my account balance now shows 9,460,000. Just on this one stock, I'm up over 800,000. It reminds me of my past life. Back then, to scrape together 100,000 to help out a so-called brother, I maxed out every online loan platform. I was suffocating under the pressure of collection texts every day. But now, looking at these daily gains, my phone started buzzing. Zhou Xingjun appeared on the screen. Chen Yi let the phone buzz for 3 seconds before he walked out of the dorm. He pressed the answer button. Mr. Zhou? Zhou Xingjian's familiar laugh came from the other end. Brother Chen, am I interrupting you? I'm off today, just finished playing ball. Chen Yi responded briefly. Zhou Xingjian got straight to the point. That 5 million consultancy fee from last week, you received it, right, brother? I got it, Chen Yi replied. Zhou Xingjian paused for a few seconds. He was waiting for a reaction from Chen Yi, or maybe testing him. Or perhaps he expected some humble, flattered pushback. But Chen Yi only gave a flat statement of fact. Zhou Xingjian lowered his voice. I didn't run that payment through the firm's corporate account. It came from my personal account. This was a test. Private or corporate, it's all the same to me. I gave you the strategy, Mr. Zhou. I earned that money fair and square. Your low-end alternative plan. I brought it up in the internal meeting, but that group of overseas educated experts in our think tank. And 2 of my core partners, they had a huge reaction. Chen Yi wasn't surprised at all. He knew the money was coming out of Zhou Xingjian's own pocket. Private equity firms, they get so obsessed with high-end tech that they end up snapping their own capital chains. And that old factory in Zhangcheng that was about to go bankrupt? It ended up being bought for pennies on the dollar by foreign capital. And they made a fortune off low-end alternatives. He said ruthlessly, of course there's risk, but for high-end R&D, they don't even have a ticket to the game. If you can't keep them in line, Mr. Zhou, then we should scrap this plan early. I can keep them in line, but I need a catalyst. Someone who can present a report that proves it's absolutely feasible. Alright, I'll host a dinner next Saturday night at the Yuzhong Pavilion. I'll invite those skeptical partners. Will you do me the honor, brother? To officially enter the inner circle, Chen Yi didn't rush to say yes. He tapped his fingers on the bed frame. Fine, but I'm only going to talk logic. I'm not responsible for the schmoozing. Zhou Xingjian burst into laughter. That's enough. The call ended. Chen Yi put his phone away and walked back into the dorm. Next Saturday's dinner would definitely be a brutal fight, but that was exactly his chance to assert his dominance. Sunday morning, the temperature in Zhangcheng rose. Luo Lai in the dorm was heading to the city center for a TOEFL prep class. Zuo Jing was sprawled on his desk, catching up on sleep. Chen Yi sat in his chair, holding a textbook on monetary economics. His gaze lingered on the complex economic models while on his phone screen. In his trading app, that bright red figure of nearly 10 million in floating profit lay there silently. He closed the book. Memories of his freshman year in his past life flooded back, just to get a spot as a minor intern in the outreach department. He'd run errands in the scorching sun, buying cigarettes and treating people to meals, only to be told, "You're too slow and dull." He tapped the desk, now sitting on 10 million in cash. The money he made from a game of chess played on a whim could buy dozens of those spots. The student union's little bit of power is worthless in the face of real capital. A deep, low engine roar drifted up from downstairs. Chen Yi walked to the balcony, resting both hands on the railing. A black Mercedes G63 with a consecutive number license plate ignored the security guard's attempt to stop it. It drove straight to the foot of the South District apartment building. Xu Yiting's car had arrived. Xu Yiting dashed out of the bathroom, not even bothering to put on his shoes. He ran barefoot to the balcony and shouted down, "I'm coming." Old Zuo, stop sleeping. Time to work. Zuo Jing rubbed her eyes and climbed up, looking dazed. What? In the building's lobby, 2 shopping carts borrowed from the supermarket were piled high with supplies. There were exactly 10 cases of French Evian mineral water and 2 huge crates of La Mer sunscreen. Zuo Jing stared at the English labels on the boxes and gasped. La Mer? Xu Xiao, each tube of this sunscreen costs thousands, right? La Mer? Are you playing for real? Xu Yiting wiped off his sweat. Does this young master look like he's short on cash? Yi Ji said so. If we're gonna do this, we're doing a resource swap. Take it straight to the sports field. Xu Yiting ran back to room 402 in one breath, pushed the door open, and walked to Chen Yi's desk, panting heavily. He planted both hands on the tabletop. Yi Ji, everything's here. 10 cases of Evian, 2 big crates of that luxury sunscreen. The driver dropped it all off. Chen Yi didn't look up. His fingers flipped a page. Xu Yiting got anxious. He grabbed the back of Chen Yi's chair. Yi Ji, put on your shoes and come downstairs. We're going together. This was your idea. We'll hit the student union recruitment booth. I've already set my sights on a deputy director spot for you. I'll get you a staff position, you can take your pick. From now on, we'll own this campus. Chen Yi stopped what he was doing. He tossed his book onto the desk and turned to look straight at Xu Yiting. And what would I do there? Xu Yiting was stunned for a second. Show your face. Once that group in the student union sees all this stuff, they'll treat us like gods of wealth. Once our reputation is out there, tons of girls will be falling all over us. Chen Yi asked in a flat tone, and then? Listen to their hollow flattery? Or get dragged around by them every day to pick up the tab? If you want that hollow title of deputy director, go get it yourself. I don't need it. I also find them annoying. Yee, I get it now. You just rest here in the dorm. I'll handle this. From now on, any miscellaneous stuff on campus that needs the student union's help, just say the word. Your brother will get it done for you. Central Plaza, student union recruitment booth. The sun was scorching. A few staff members were hiding under the red-top tent, dripping with sweat from the heat. Liu Bo, the deputy director of the External Relations Department, sat in the middle, fanning himself with an ugly look on his face. The sound of rolling wheels approached. Xu Yiting walked in the lead. Zhuo Jing and the driver pushed the two fully loaded carts and marched toward the tent. Liu Bo frowned and adopted an official, bureaucratic tone. Hey, this is the student union recruitment booth, not a logistics transfer station. Don't park those carts here. Xu Yiting ignored him. He walked to the very front of the tent and gave a crisp, decisive wave to unload the goods. The driver neatly set the 10 cases of Evian down with a heavy thud, and Zhuo Jing deftly pulled out her keys. Xu Yiting sliced open the tape on the box of sunscreen and casually grabbed a tube of La Mer. He handed it to a senior student sitting nearby and said, "Senior, thanks for all your hard work. The sun has been brutal during these last few days of military training. You should put on some sunscreen." The senior looked at the item in her hand, and her eyes instantly lit up. Xu Yiting pointed to the bottles of Evian on the ground and said, "My family's company just launched some new energy projects. We know you seniors have been working so hard to organize the orientation, so we wanted to sponsor some supplies to help everyone beat the heat." "You're too kind, little brother. How could I possibly accept this? It's just a small token of my appreciation. As long as you don't mind it, sir. Looking at your strategic planning and connections, working as a regular staff member is a waste of your talents. The External Relations Department happens to be short a vice minister. Just fill out this form, little brother, and come straight to the meeting this afternoon." The door to dorm 402 was shoved open, and Xu Yiting strode in. His face was glowing with undisguised triumph. Zhuo Jing looked up and asked, "Well, young Master Xu, did you pull it off?" Xu Yiting lifted his chin and said, 10 cases of Evian and 2 cases of high-end sunscreen did the trick." That grandson Liu Bo's eyes nearly popped out of his head. "I've secured the position of Vice Minister of External Relations, Chen Yi. Damn, you really have a quick mind. That little resource-swapping trick of yours, even those old foxes in the student union fell for it. Once you graduate, just come straight to my family's new energy subsidiary. I'll save a director position for you, starting salary of 500,000 a year. Work for me, and I promise I'll make it worth your while." "Thanks, but I don't like punching a clock. Small temples always have too many demons. And shallow ponds always have too many turtles," Luo Lai added. "Who are you calling a turtle?" Xu Yiting asked, but Luo Lai ignored him. Luo Lai reopened his book, leaving Xu Yiting gritting his teeth in frustration. Still, he forced himself to swallow his anger. The second week of military training arrived. It was 6:30 in the morning on the South Campus track, and the early autumn sun was already blindingly bright. Each college's formation stood in neat rows, with chants echoing back and forth. Despite the fact that the Economics and Management Department's formation was already halfway through a 30-minute posture drill. Chen Yi stood in the front row, his posture tall and straight. His breathing was steady. Finally, Zhao Tijun blew the whistle for a break. The formation instantly dissolved, and the freshmen rushed toward the shade, wailing as they went. Chen Yi walked under a camphor tree, unscrewed his water bottle, and tilted his head back to drink. On the main path of the track, several tall, muscular guys were walking toward them. Leading them was the very same sports academy student whom Chen Yi had completely crushed on the basketball court over the weekend. Wang Lei took a casual glance toward the shade. But when his eyes landed on Chen Yi, his voice cut off abruptly. His smile vanished instantly, and he quickened his pace to avoid the Economics and Management Department's rest area. Zhuo Jin, sharp-eyed as ever, immediately nudged his elbow. Xu Yiting was retelling the highlights of the weekend's basketball game. Chen Yi tore through their defense with a blind pass behind his head, and then Xu Yiting went in for the kill. With a buzzer-beating three-pointer. The freshmen listened, completely enthralled. The way they looked at Chen Yi now held a hint of awe. Meanwhile, Chen Yi just leaned against the tree trunk and tossed his empty bottle into the trash, his expression completely calm. The marching and drills were mostly finished now. For the next 3 days, the training would focus on military boxing and combat drills. It was a required component for the field training. Today we'll start with the basics of grappling and counter-grappling. Anyone brave enough to volunteer as my sparring partner? Hundreds of freshmen stood there, dead silent. No one dared to step up and be a punching bag, until Zhao Tijun noticed Chen Yi. He called out in a booming voice, "Chen Yi, step forward." Chen Yi marched out of the ranks. He walked to the center of the field and stood firm. Zhao Tijun cracked his wrists and said, "Get into position. Don't hold back. Come at me with everything you've got, all your speed and all your power. Let's see what you're really made of." Chen Yi gave a small nod. "Instructor, no hard feelings." Before he could even finish, Zhao Tijun lunged forward without warning, closing the distance in a single stride. His right fist whistled through the air, aiming straight for Chen Yi's face with lightning speed. He wasn't pulling his punches at all. Yet, Chen Yi didn't retreat a single inch. With a slight shift of his left foot, he tilted his body just enough to the right. Zhao Tijun's fist grazed past his nose. In that split second, Chen Yi clamped onto Zhao Tijun's wrist joint like a pair of iron pliers. His right hand transformed into a palm strike, chopping directly at the nerve point on the instructor's elbow. Zhao Tijun's pupils constricted. This wasn't the reaction speed of a college freshman. He abandoned his right arm, dropped his left shoulder, and used his forward momentum to ram into Chen Yi's chest, trying to use his weight to break Chen Yi's center of gravity. A flash of gold ignited in Chen Yi's eyes. He released the wrist in one fluid motion, and instead of backing down, he stepped forward, jamming his right foot into Zhao Tijun's path. With his arms crossed tightly to protect his chest, the two collided with a solid impact. There was a dull thud, but Chen Yi's feet remained planted as if they were nailed to the ground. Not giving Zhao Tijun a second to recover, Chen Yi took the initiative. His right hand lightning fast grabbed Zhao Tijun's left shoulder, right below the collarbone. His left hand hooked around the belt, and with a burst of power from his waist, he twisted hard. It was a textbook over-the-shoulder throw. The moment the move started, Zhao Tijun's face changed dramatically. He kicked off the ground with his right leg, fighting to stabilize his base. Sensing the shift in gravity, Chen Yi immediately abandoned the throw. He let go of the belt with his left hand and swept his leg out in a low, swift arc. He struck Zhao Tijun's supporting ankle, forcing him to jump to avoid it. The moment Zhao Tijun's feet left the ground, Chen Yi's right hand slid up along the collarbone. He slammed his palm into the point 3 inches below Zhao Tijun's throat, using the instructor's own force against him. With one final, explosive push, Zhao Tijun completely lost his balance in midair. After landing, he stumbled back 3 huge steps. He had to stomp his right foot hard onto the rubber track just to keep from falling. The whole field went dead quiet. Hundreds of freshmen held their breath. Then, the economics department formation erupted into chaos. Zhuo Jing jumped up, grabbed Xu Yiting by the collar, and shook him violently, her voice cracking with excitement. "Xu, you saw that, right? Did you see that? Our guy Yi just took down the instructor." Xu Yiting stood there with his mouth wide open, forgetting even to fight back. He was silently wondering, is this kid actually a monk from the Shaolin Temple? Luo Lai's fingers trembled as he adjusted his glasses, knowing full well that those moves couldn't be mastered without years of real combat experience. There was no way to learn that overnight. Nearby, the girls' formations erupted into ear-piercing screams. In the middle of the field, Zhao Tijun stood straight, ignoring the commotion all around him. He rubbed the red finger marks below his collarbone and looked up at Chen Yi, who was standing opposite him. Chen Yi withdrew his hand and stood with his legs together. He stood in a textbook perfect military stance, his breathing steady. Without the slightest bit of wheezing, Zhao Tijun didn't get angry or embarrassed. Instead, he suddenly cracked a wide grin and let out a rough, boisterous laugh. "Good kid, you're sharp." That sweep kick followed by a throat lock. "You couldn't pull that off without real combat experience. You're a natural-born soldier." Chen Yi replied in a flat, calm tone, without bowing. "Instructor, you're too kind." Zhao Tijun turned around, facing all the new recruits in the company. His voice boomed across half the training field through the loudspeaker. "Did you see that? That is what we call a variation of military boxing. Starting today, Chen Yi will serve as the deputy leader of our company. During the military training drills, his commands are equivalent to mine." A massive cheer erupted from the crowd once again. Under the camphor trees on the edge of the field, Shen Zuqing, wearing her staff ID, accompanied by 2 student council members, was inspecting the logistics supply station. She stopped in her tracks. Her gaze cut through the crowd, landing on Chen Yi, who was surrounded like a star in the middle. Sunlight caught his broad shoulders. He maintained that same look, arms hanging naturally at his sides, indifferent and unreadable. Even when receiving the instructor's promotion, he only gave a slight nod. "That's enough looking. Next week, the college is hosting a salon on old to new enterprise reform. Help me add Chen Yi's name to the observer list. Follow the department approval process and send a formal notification to his counselor." Inside the broadcasting station on the 5th floor of the administration building, across from the South Campus field, Ning Yao sat at a long table by the floor-to-ceiling window. The sunlight shone on her plain white shirt, and stationery filled with fountain pen ink was spread across the desk. That was the military training news bulletin to be broadcast today. The cheering from the field below was piercingly loud. Ning Yao stopped writing, tilted her head, and looked out the window. From her high vantage point, she found the economics and management formation and saw that tall, upright silhouette. Her gaze lingered for about 3 seconds. Ning Yao looked away. She lowered her head again and picked up her fountain pen. In the blank space at the very edge of the stationery, she idly doodled. A few marks. They weren't words, just a few simple lines and circles. If someone who understood basketball tactics were here, they would recognize it in an instant. It was a tactical play map showing a minimalist V-cut screen, followed by a corner 3-point game winner. In the basketball gym over the weekend, Chen Yi held the ball, preparing to take the final shot. The entire gym's attention was focused on him. It was the make-or-break moment of the game. The air was thick with tension. Late at night, the second-to-last day of military training. After the lights went out in dorm 402, the exhausted roommates were each lost in their own thoughts. Zhuo Jing was fast asleep, snoring, while Xu Yi was dreaming of external sponsorships, immersed in a quiet world. But Chen Yi lay in the darkness, the glow of his phone screen reflecting on his calm face. The K-line chart for Shin'e Energy on his screen displayed a brilliant record of 12 consecutive daily limit hits. His account balance was approaching 13 million. To an average person, this massive sum might be the destination of a lifetime, but in Chen Yi's eyes, it was merely a chip to leverage even greater capital. Chen Yi keenly captured the shifts in the market. The sell orders plummeted from 1,500,000 lots to 1,300,000, then were quickly propped up by retail orders. This subtle strategy of splitting orders is nearly impossible for ordinary retail investors to spot. But it couldn't escape his master-level financial intuition. He saw exactly when to open a position and when to pull out. Chen Yi instantly saw through the institutional players' smokescreen. They were quietly withdrawing their orders in the dead of night, preparing to dump the stock at tomorrow's morning opening, a classic morning sell-off. He wasn't greedy for the last bit of profit. He chose to exit decisively. He sent a leave request to his counselor. "Counselor, there's a military training rehearsal tomorrow. I have an urgent family matter. May I have a half-day leave? I'll be back on campus before noon." Right after, a text message popped up. The Nardo Grey Audi RS6 he ordered had arrived at the port, and the expedited version had been offloaded in the dealership's basement garage. With nearly 13 million in stock market funds ready to be liquidated, his 2 million plus top-tier touring car was waiting for him to pick it up. Tomorrow's schedule was packed. Tomorrow at 9 in the morning. No ceremony needed, just have the car keys and temporary plates ready. He knew that for the high-end Saturday night capital circuit, without a car that commands respect, just talking wouldn't cut it. Shanghai A123456. Early in the morning, while his roommates were still fast asleep, Chen Yi had already quietly gotten up. He put on that high-end black bespoke outfit. His phone held the trump card for the future. He walked out of the dorm alone, ready for today's 2 big shows. Inside a high-rise suite at the Baiyue Hotel, Chen Yi was sipping coffee, while closely examining the stock market board. Despite the superficial prosperity, he saw right through the institutional player's disguise. His total assets showed 12,870,000, 121,095, 182.39, 12,880,000. He decisively clicked sell, splitting all his chips into small orders, confirming them in batches just 1 cent above the lower limit. The opening bell rang. A massive volume of sell orders instantly smashed through the upper limit. The stock plummeted from the daily limit to the lower limit. A dramatic sky-to-earth reversal. The retail investors were still dreaming of consecutive gains, but were crushed at the lower limit. Chen Yi, however, had escaped completely unscathed. In less than 20 days, Chen Yi had gone from being a broke student to a capital player holding millions in cash. He locked his phone, finished his coffee in one gulp. His confidence solidified, ready to take on the next battlefield, picking up the car. At 10 o'clock sharp, the salesman, Gao Ming, respectfully welcomed Chen Yi into the private VIP room. As the black velvet car cover slid off, a Nardo Grey Audi RS6 Avant revealed its true form. Its flared wheel arches radiated power, and the carbon ceramic brake discs glinted with a cold light. It exuded the fierce aura of a thug in a suit. Chen Yi sat in the driver's seat, listening to the low roar of the V8 engine, feeling the power of this beast. He took out his China Merchants Bank black gold card and decisively paid off the full balance. 1,980,000. He didn't even blink an eye. This most powerful station wagon on earth would be his armor for tonight. Outside the VIP room, Xu Dachang, the father of his dorm mate, was being sweet-talked by the sales manager with a 0 down payment, 70,000 a month rental plan to drive away a Maybach GLS. The man, who had made a fortune in construction, was being swayed. He picked up the pen to sign the trap-laden contract. Chen Yi saw it all. and decided to step in. Chen Yi walked straight to the water cooler, got a cup of ice water and spoke up, unhurriedly. The classic trap of financing leases, 0 down payment, 70,000 a month just to put on a front. It really was impressive, but that sentence hit the sales manager like a heavy hammer, smashing right into his heart. The vehicle title belongs to the leasing company. Miss a payment and it gets towed. 1.68 million wasted in 2 years. The car wasn't even his to keep. Xu Dachang was furious after looking over the contract. He ripped it to shreds and threw it at the manager. Screw you, you dare try to scam me? When he turned back to thank the young man, he found that Chen Yi had already vanished. Xu Dachang chased him out to the entrance, but only caught a glimpse of that cement gray RS6 speeding out of the basement like lightning. The young man behind the wheel had a cold, sharp expression. He slammed on the gas. The roar of the V8 engine tore through the air as he sped away. This contractor, who had spent years on construction sites, realized in shock that a formidable young newcomer had arrived in Zhangcheng 10 minutes ago. He was a big-shot capitalist driving $1 million luxury car. Now, Chen Yi had changed into cheap camouflage, blending into the street crowd, walking toward the university. Your trump cards must always be hidden where no one can see them, so you can unleash lethal power at the critical moment. 2 o'clock in the afternoon, the sun was blazing. The School of Economics and Management formation was practicing military boxing. Chen Yi stood at the front, leading them. Suddenly, the academic minister of the student union personally delivered a gold-embossed invitation. An invitation from Vice President Shen Zuqing, specifically inviting him to next Wednesday's New Economy and New Enterprise Salon. This invitation, which had passed the school's highest approval process, instantly set the whole place off. The freshmen nearby started gossiping like crazy. An invitation using the campus beauty's official privileges, something so many dreamed of. But Chen Yi just took it casually. He didn't even look at it before stuffing it into his cheap pants pocket. Got it, thank Vice President Shen for me. His indifferent and impatient attitude was as if the gold-embossed invite were nothing more than a piece of trash. She thought Chen Yi taking it meant he'd caved. That seemingly casual move, in her eyes, was just a cover-up for a boy's fragile pride. The campus beauty smirked, wondering if at the professional salon, this freshman who liked to act all deep could still keep his cool, detached composure. 3 o'clock in the afternoon, the military training review officially began. The School of Economics and Management formation entered under Chen Yi's lead. When the rhythm started to fall apart, he gave a low shout to steady their pace, and the formation instantly stabilized. Perfect. During the military boxing display, Chen Yi's movements were sharp and standard. Perfect. Every punch cut through the wind, every move was filled with killing intent. The School of Economics and Management formation won first prize with the highest total score. The playground erupted in deafening cheers. Tough guy instructor Zhao Tijun walked through the cheering crowd and personally pressed a brass shell casing into Chen Yi's palm. It was the first bullet he ever fired at the border, representing an unconditional personal promise. Chen Yi hadn't spent a single cent, purely through raw strength and charisma. He had earned the deepest respect of this veteran. On the tree-lined path that evening, Chen Yi ran into Ning Yao while buying water. A gust of wind blew his notes away, revealing a diagram filled with dots, lines, and circles. It was exactly his winning route from the basketball game over the weekend. The girl didn't mention basketball. Instead, she analyzed it from a mathematical and logical perspective, showing a mature insight into the application of spatial geometry in real combat. The moment a defense reveals a flaw is the exact node where tactics take effect. Ning Yao's cold gaze remained calm. She was focused on something else. The logic of optimal resource allocation under extreme constraints. In his eyes, that ball game was a brilliant tactical maneuver. There was no small talk or testing, it was a pure clash of high-level intellects. Efficiency above all else, they said the 4 words in perfect unison. It was as if 2 intelligent creatures had just found they were on the same wavelength. Ning Yao turned and walked away, her long hair swaying slightly in the twilight. Chen Yi watched her retreating figure, thinking to himself that in this Zhang University circle, only Ning Yao could strip away the labels and cut straight to the core of how he operated. This woman is razor sharp. When Xu Yiting heard that night, he excitedly announced he was treating the whole dorm to celebrate at the Yuzhang Pavilion. When he saw Chen Yi in that plain black long coat with no logo, he worriedly advised, "Brother Yi, this outfit of yours doesn't even have a logo, you might not even get past the security guards." Chen Yi just replied calmly that comfort was all that mattered. He decided not to miss any events, planning to play it by ear. At 8 o'clock that evening, the 4 of them arrived at the Yuzhang Pavilion, a 3-story ancient-style building nestled by the river. The entrance was crowded with luxury cars and heavily guarded. Xu Yiting puffed out his chest as he walked toward the door, only to be blocked by the head waiter. He was asked to show his membership card. He snorted in annoyance, slapped a gold card out of his wallet, and showcased his status and confidence. Xu Yiting smugly handed over the gold card, demanding a Riverview suite on the second floor and 2 bottles of fine wine. However, after taking the card, the head waiter's expression changed instantly. He returned the card with both hands and respectfully apologized. "My apologies, young Master Xu. The top floor is hosting a secret meeting for industry titans tonight. To ensure absolute privacy for our guests, we have suspended service for all standard membership areas." The smug look on Xu Yiting's face froze instantly. He turned to look at Chen Yi, Luo Lai, and Zuo Jin behind him, then angrily pointed at the head waiter's nose and demanded, "What do you mean? This card of mine, I've topped it up with 500,000. And you're telling me, service is suspended? Where is your boss? Get him out here." The head waiter remained unflinching, blocking the entrance. This was a strict order from the boss himself. The guests tonight are of extremely high status. If you insist on barging in, we'll have to call security. Forget about going elsewhere. I am not leaving this place tonight. Just as the standoff reached a breaking point, a man in a silver gray suit, with a director badge on his chest, Gao Yuan, walked over quickly. Gao Yuan stepped out of the doors, his sharp gaze sweeping across the crowd until he immediately spotted the figure in the back. Chen Yi, who was standing calmly in a plain, handmade black coat. He hurried forward, about to speak, when Chen Yi made a subtle gesture, signaling him not to reveal his identity. Gao Yuan understood instantly and turned to Xu Yiting, his face full of respect. "Since these are honored guests brought by young Master Xu, how could I let you all stand outside?" The head waiter was ignorant. "The Supreme VIP hall on the first floor will be opened especially for you, free of charge. Please, come inside, everyone." Xu Yiting was stunned for a moment, thinking that his father's new energy project had made the management of Yuzhong Pavilion come personally to curry favor. With a cold scoff, "Smart choice," Zuo shouted with a look of pure adoration on his face. "Young Master Xu, you're a legend." That was some serious clout. The 4 of them stepped over the threshold, with Chen Yi bringing up the rear. He didn't say a word as he brushed past Gao Yuan, who fell half a step behind. His attitude became increasingly respectful, while Luo Lai, standing to the side, adjusted his glasses. Looking deep in thought, he said, "See that? That's what you call real status. That 970,000, maybe even more, it's definitely from my old man's new energy project. It's really made a name for itself. Young Master Xu, your family's influence is just top tier. I'm even afraid to dirty this sofa by sitting on it. Brothers, from tomorrow on, our dorm 402 is going to be the absolute best in the School of Economics and Management. Brother Yi, you've got a sharp mind. You handle the strategy behind the scenes. Young Master Xu is the best. 402 is invincible." Yet, Chen Yi's thoughts drifted back to his past life. That rainy night where he was mocked for not being able to pay an 8,000 yuan bar tab, the memory of his self-esteem being completely crushed. He pulled himself out of the memory, the corner of his mouth curling into a faint, indifferent arc. He raised his glass, clinked it against Xu Yiting's, and took a drink. He finished it in one gulp, then raised his hand to check his watch. Standing up, he said, "I'm going to the restroom to get some air." He grabbed his jacket and walked out of the private room. Luo Lai sensed something was off. There was no need to take a jacket to the restroom, and the room had its own private bathroom. He suppressed the urge to follow him, knowing that truly smart people know when to keep their distance. In the top floor conference room, the atmosphere was tense. Li Jianye and his actuarial team were using a PowerPoint presentation to demand the termination of the Zhangcheng factory acquisition. They pushed to invest in Silicon Valley Semiconductors instead, arguing confidently that the project would see at least a 50-fold increase in the price-to-earnings ratio upon listing on Nasdaq. Zhou Xingjin, however, pointed to Chen Yi in the corner and said, "This is my special consultant, whom I invited personally, my young brother Chen Yi." Li Jianye sneered, bringing in a wet-behind-the-ears kid who probably can't even read a financial statement to fool the board? That's a pathetic trick. While Li Jianye was still rambling on, Xu Dachang walked into the conference room. Upon seeing Chen Yi, he was so shocked he nearly stumbled. Chen Yi stood up to retort, "Your logic in that PPT is garbage, Mr. Li. You're trying to sell Wellington steak at a roadside stand by acting like you're doing high-end chips. The core supply chain is locked down by foreign capital. What are you going to compete with? That bankrupt old factory making low-end components is like a street-side breakfast pancake. High-end machines aren't selling right now, but demand for low-end parts is surging. You're forcing everyone to make Wellington steak while we're starving." He then pointed out, the Silicon Valley team has risks of patent infringement, and their chief engineer signed a non-compete agreement just 3 months ago. If you sink 500 million into that, the legal notices will show up on your doorstep. Old Li, it's time to replace your calculation team. 500 million in capital. You nearly dragged everyone into a bottomless pit of patent lawsuits. Restructuring. The resolution for the Zhongcheng factory will be executed tomorrow morning. Chen Yi dropped his pencil and said, "That's all." Having finished, he turned and left. Xu Dacheng, in the corner, pinched his own thigh. To confirm he wasn't dreaming, Zhou Xingjian's capital injection had saved his 30 million yuan in construction payments. He was ready to bow down to this god of wealth. Yes, Chen Yi had returned to the private room. Xu Yiting slurred his words as he leaned in to clink glasses with Luo Lai, catching the lingering scent of a top-tier Cuban cigar on Chen Yi. It was a special blend you couldn't buy even with all the money in the world. He took a deep breath, his eyes flashing with sudden shock. As the gathering ended, Gao Yuan waved the bill to see them off. When the four of them stepped out of the front door, Xu Dacheng walked out from the VIP entrance, looking radiant. With the funding for the old factory finalized, he had just obtained a commitment for the first phase of the project payment from Zhou Xingjian's assistant. Zhou Dacheng was walking down the steps, feeling on top of the world. Strutting with a swagger, but he froze the moment he looked up. Standing under a street lamp 3 meters away was Chen Yi. With his hands tucked into the pockets of his black casual trousers, the play of light and shadow made his cold, stern features look incredibly sharp. Zhou Dacheng's knees went weak, and he reflexively started to bow down in a deep show of respect. Having spent decades climbing the corporate ladder, he knew a real powerhouse when he saw one. And he never messed that up. He let go of his briefcase, hands hanging at his sides, just about to bow and call out Mr. Chen. When Chen Yi lifted his eyelids slightly, his gaze landing calmly on his face. He tilted his head ever so slightly, using his eyes to stop him. Just as Xu Dacheng had bowed down 10 centimeters, cold sweat instantly soaked through the back of his shirt. He understood the subtext in Chen Yi's eyes: "Don't cause trouble, and don't blow my cover." His brain raced, and he forced himself to stop mid-motion. Out of the corner of his eye, he spotted Xu Yiting standing next to Chen Yi, reeking of alcohol and laughing like a fool. "Xu Yiting," Xu Dacheng roared, his voice booming with authority. Using the momentum from his crouched position, he jerked his body upright, charged over with long strides, and raised his thick palm. He slapped the back of Xu Yiting's head hard with a loud, sharp thwack. "Dad, what are you doing here?" "I'm here for business. You're out here embarrassing me." He glanced out of the corner of his eye, carefully observing Chen Yi's expression. Seeing that Chen Yi looked indifferent, Xu Dacheng let out a sigh of relief. He turned around, his face instantly shifting from the expression of a fierce foreman to a flattering, servile grin. "You must be this kid's roommates, right? I've spoiled this brat since he was little. If he acts like a fool from now on, please, feel free to give him a piece of your mind, don't hold back at all." Even though he was speaking to everyone, his gaze was glued firmly to the ground 30 centimeters in front of Chen Yi's feet. He didn't dare look up. "Nice to meet you, uncle. Young Master Xu has been very good to us. Then you guys get back to school early. I'm taking this little brat home now. Tomorrow, I'll make him crawl back to the dorm himself." He grabbed Xu Yiting by the ear and dragged him toward the Maibach. Xu Yiting wailed the whole way, but didn't dare to resist. Meanwhile, Luo Lai stared at Chen Yi with suspicion. He had felt that something was off all night. The next morning, a black Mercedes G-Class drove straight into the south gate of Zhang University. It parked arrogantly in front of the apartment building. Xu Yiting, clutching his hungover head, climbed out of the passenger seat. His father, Xu Dacheng, grabbed him by the collar, lowered his voice, and roared, "Get back to the dorm and keep your head down. Learn to get along with your roommates, and stop acting like a spoiled prince all day." "Did you hear me?" Xu Yiting shook him off, looking completely annoyed. "Dad, have you been drinking fake liquor? I'm the vice president of the External Relations Department. Those guys are counting on me to show them the ropes. Should I be clinging to their coattails instead?" Xu Dacheng raised his hand in a rage, but suddenly, Chen Yi's chillingly calm warning flashed through his mind, sending a shiver down his spine. He forced himself to pull his hand back. Xu Dacheng remembered what he'd found out last night. That gathering on the top floor of the Yuzhong Pavilion was hosted by a billionaire private equity mogul. Even if the Xu family went bankrupt, they couldn't afford to provoke him. He pulled back his hand, lowered his voice, and threatened, "I told you to keep a low profile. If you cause any more trouble, I'm cutting off your allowance." Having said that, he dove into his SUV and sped off. Xu Yiting curled her lip and muttered, "Crazy old man." She turned around and stumbled her way up to the 4th floor. "Young Master Xu, you really need to work on your tolerance. You saw how they rolled out the red carpet for old Zuo last night, right? The top executives at Yuzhong Pavilion came out to greet him personally and opened the supreme VIP room just for him." Chen Yi sat on the edge of his bottom bunk, casually scrolling through the report Zhou Xingjian had sent him. He ignored the commotion on the balcony. Luo Lai walked out from the bathroom, stopped by Chen Yi's bed, and lowered his voice, "Young Master Shu. Sobered up pretty fast, but the ventilation in the Supreme VIP room last night wasn't great. Your jacket reeks of Cuban cigars. It's pretty pungent." His sense of smell was incredibly sharp. He could already smell that distinct scent of custom Cuban cigars on Chen Yi. Chen Yi didn't even look up and said lazily, "Ran into some chubby guy smoking in the bathroom, must have rubbed off on me." Luo Lai's brain went into overdrive. Shu Dachang is a chubby guy. The way he was bowing and scraping when he left the VIP area last night proved that the person he was terrified of was none other than Chen Yi. Luo Lai gulped, completely dropping his arrogant rich kid act. He switched to an extremely friendly tone. "Don't machine wash that jacket. I'm heading to the dry cleaners downtown this afternoon. I'll drop it off and have them handle it for you." Chen Yi locked his phone screen, glanced at Luo Lai, and said, "Sure, thanks." Luo Lai walked back to his seat holding his towel, feeling completely at ease. He knew he had guessed right. The person Shu Dacheng feared was this seemingly ordinary roommate sitting right in front of him. Monday morning, the freshmen of the School of Economics and Management officially started their classes. The lecture hall was buzzing. Xu Yiting and Zuo Jing had claimed the prime seats by the window in the back early on, with a $5,000 Mont Blanc fountain pen on the desk. She made sure her Longines watch was clearly visible on her wrist. Meanwhile, Chen Yi walked in from the back door, wearing a plain t-shirt that cost a few bucks online, carrying only a $2 gel pen and a thin grid notebook, looking completely laid back. "I'm too lazy to recite the dead concepts from the textbooks. Based on our current social climate, who can give me a layman's explanation?" The classroom went dead silent. Xu Yiting thought this was her chance to show off. She stood up and recited a string of obscure jargon. "Are you just reading from Wikipedia? A mess of pretentious words thrown together. It's total nonsense. You're all talk and no substance. Sit down." Xu Yiting's face flushed red, and she slumped back into her seat. Qi Jiangguo scanned the room, and his gaze landed on Chen Yi, who was sitting in the back by the window, spinning his pen. Pointing to him to answer, Chen Yi stood up. He wasn't nervous at all. It wasn't some complicated mystery. "Let's use our school cafeteria as an example. $5 gets you all you can eat. The second floor has stir-fry, averaging $20 a person. Last month, when school first started, everyone had plenty of spending money, so the stir-fry line was long every single day. Nobody wanted the basic canteen meals on the first floor. That's what you call a consumption upgrade." A few students in the classroom nodded along. "But now that it's the end of the month, everyone's living expenses are almost gone. By logic, since they're broke, they should be eating the canteen meals on the first floor, right? No, everyone would rather order the cheapest thing on the second floor. Mapo tofu with rice, then go downstairs for a $5 all-you-can-eat meal. It's easy to go from frugal to lavish, but hard to go from lavish back to frugal. That is the Diderot effect." As soon as he finished speaking, the whole class paused for 2 seconds, and then the lecture hall erupted in laughter. What a great point about the Mapo tofu. This is the kind of explanation that truly nails the essence of economics. Chen Yi, you get full marks for participation in this course. As long as you pass the final exam, I'll give you an AEGE with a silver tongue like yours. It's a shame you aren't doing stand-up comedy. Eat more walnuts to boost your brainpower." Chen Yi picked up a walnut kernel and tossed it into his mouth. As he chewed and swallowed, a mechanical, synthesized voice sounded right in his mind. Effective suggestion detected. Activation conditions met. Acquired passive skill, photographic memory, beginner, and $10,000 cash. A cool stream of energy surged into Chen Yi's brain. The notes on the blackboard, the table of contents of the textbooks on the desk, and even the tiny hangnail on the edge of Zuo Jin's finger when he held the walnut. Everything formed perfectly clear, high-definition images in his mind. He could retrieve them at any time. Chen Yi twirled the pen in his hand, thinking that with this skill, he could save a huge amount of time on studying. "I'll have to test the full effect later. The cafeteria is crowded as hell. Let's head downtown for a real meal, my treat. Too far, and I need to study this afternoon." Have you already forgotten about the Diderot effect he just lectured on? Let's just go to the second floor of the cafeteria for stir-fry. No way, Yi Ji. The grease and smoke on the second floor will make a person pass out. This outfit of mine is. Luo Lai walked alongside them, his brow furrowed. He had originally wanted to go to an upscale restaurant, but thinking back to how Chen Yi acted that night at the Yuzhong Pavilion, he felt he should stick with this truly dominant figure. Luo Lai unbuttoned the first button of his shirt, and for the first time ever, he bypassed the upscale dining hall and followed in Chen Yi's footsteps. "Actually, I've been wanting to try that Mapo tofu on the second floor for a long time." Xu Yiting stood there, stunned. Luo Lai, who usually cared the most about status and appearance, had actually volunteered to eat at the cafeteria. Zuo Jin wrapped an arm around her shoulder. Forget it, Shu, let's go. Just for today, we'll join Yi Ji for some tofu. 10+ minutes later, at the second floor stir-fry section of the South Campus cafeteria, Luo Lai didn't pull out his imported antiseptic wipes this time. Copying Chen Yi, he just pulled out a chair and sat down. The four of them ordered mapo tofu, dry-fried green beans, stir-fried meat, and tomato egg soup. Chen Yi snapped open his disposable bamboo chopsticks, picked up some tofu coated in red chili oil, and shoved it into his mouth, followed by several big mouthfuls of rice. Luo Lai also picked up a piece of meat and chewed slowly, finally dropping his practiced act as a young aristocrat. The four of them wiped their plates completely clean. The bill came to just over 40 yuan, and they walked out of the cafeteria. Sunlight hit them, and Shu Yiting let out a satisfied, stuffed burp. He rubbed his belly and said, "Man, this stir-fried pork is actually legit. From now on, Brother Yi, you're in charge of all our meals at school." It was 2 in the afternoon with no classes, so Chen Yi headed back to the dorm. He grabbed his black backpack and headed toward the school library. He went straight to the sociology section on the 4th floor, walking between 2 rows of tall, wooden bookshelves. Sunlight filtered through the blinds, casting striped patches of light onto the hardwood floor. Tiny dust motes floated in the air, carrying that distinct, musty scent of old paper. Just as he turned into the aisle, a faint, woody scent of cedar drifted into his nose. At the corner at the end of the aisle, Ning Yao was wearing a simple, clean white dress. Standing in front of the inner shelf, there was a thick, black-bound out-of-print foreign book. It was placed on the very top shelf, and she stood on her tiptoes. Stretching her body upward, her slender fingertips brushed repeatedly against the edge of the black cover. She was just a few centimeters short, and she pulled her hand back. She frowned slightly, and this small movement, it broke her usual cold, untouchable exterior. She was just an ordinary girl who couldn't reach a book. Ning Yao shifted her stance and stood on her tiptoes once more. There was a look of pure determination on her face. Just then, Chen Yi stepped forward. He raised his arm, reaching past her shoulder, and pressed his fingers against the spine of the black book. With a flick of his wrist, he pulled it out. He held it steady and handed it over to her. Ning Yao's breath hitched for a moment, her gaze sweeping past Chen Yi's sharp, cold jawline. She reached out with both hands to take the book, and as they exchanged it, her fingertips couldn't help but brush against the back of Chen Yi's hand. Ning Yao turned and walked toward the long table by the window. She tucked a loose strand of hair behind her ear. Chen Yi followed her over. He pulled out the chair opposite her and sat down without any unnecessary small talk. He opened the sociology text in front of him, his photographic memory skill kicking in, flipping through the 600-page professional book at a steady rhythm of 2 seconds per page. Dense text and charts were scanned and processed as if by high-precision equipment, categorized and filed away in his mental library. Opposite him, the scratching of Ning Yao's pen on her notebook was audible. She glanced over occasionally. At the broadcast station and the student union, she had seen too many guys who tried way too hard to show off. But Chen Yi's way of interacting, where he didn't even bother to give her a proper look, actually made her feel incredibly comfortable. It was a resonance of equal frequency. Chen Yi flipped the page, smelling the scent of old paper, and remembered his past life, spending days fawning over people at dinner tables just for a project budget of a few tens of thousands. Wednesday afternoon, the New Economy and New Enterprise Salon kicked off in the School of Economics and Management's lecture hall. Out on the main road, Shu Yiting was wearing a red volunteer vest, busy carrying cases of bottled water. Zuo Jing was nearby handing out sign-in sheets. Chen Yi walked over casually, his black backpack slung over one shoulder. Seeing Shu Yiting moving water, he asked if he needed a hand. No, Brother Yi. You're the big shot specially invited by the school goddess Shen. Hurry inside and go find yourself a good seat. You're a VIP personally invited by the campus beauty, Shen. Better get inside and grab a good seat. Chen Yi pulled a crumpled, gold-embossed invitation out of his pocket. He tossed it to the senior student at the check-in desk and walked into the venue. Skipping the prominent seats in the front, he picked a spot in the corner against the wall, second from the back. The tiered lecture hall was buzzing. The first 3 rows were filled with department heads. Professors and invited local entrepreneurs sat there, while the back was packed with students. At 3 o'clock in the afternoon, the expert sharing session ended. Moving into the Q&A segment, we have a special guest with us, a freshman. Chen Yi, regarding the sinking market in the new energy industry. In the process of full channel penetration, how do we solve the barriers to capital operation? And the fragmentation of the capital flow supervision for thunderstorm-prone funds? The 4 complex macroeconomic terms landed heavily. The freshmen in the back were completely bewildered. Barriers aren't that complicated. Imagine Auntie Wong from the village going to the market to buy cabbage while a farmer's crop is sitting unsold. If it's $2 a pound and it's half off, Auntie Wong only cares about the price. She doesn't care which field that cabbage came from. That is market penetration, price sensitivity. Chi Jiangwo's furrowed brow finally relaxed. A middleman sees an opportunity for profit. He buys up all the unsold cabbage, hires a tricycle, drags it to the entrance of Auntie Wang's village, and sets up a stall to sell it. That is channel penetration. As for what you called capital operation, barriers? That's exactly what this is. The middleman spends a little money to rent the open space at the village entrance, or just finds a few thugs to block the road into the village, preventing anyone else from selling their cabbage. That is a capital barrier. A burst of laughter erupted from the crowd of freshmen in the back. As for the final piece, capital flow, supervision is even simpler. Auntie Wong pays for the cabbage. Is there a magnet under the scale at the village entrance? Did the money actually go into the farmer's pocket? Or did the middleman pocket the price difference? You just need someone to sit on a stool and watch the ledger. That is supervision. Translating high-end economic jargon into plain language, sinking. Market capital operation is, in essence, a game of land grabbing based on information gaps and channel control. The massive conference room fell into dead silence. The essence of business is trading. Chen Yi has deconstructed both sides of a trade very thoroughly. If you strip away the underlying logic of Auntie Wong buying cabbage, even the best project is just a castle in the air. The entrepreneurs in the front row immediately started applauding, and countless people turned around, gazing with extreme admiration toward the back row, at that young man who wasn't even wearing a suit. This is the kind of insight you only get after fighting in the market for real. The applause was like thunder. On stage, Shen Zuqing clutched the microphone, trying to say something to smooth things over. But she found that all the knowledge she was so proud of was stuck in her throat. The sophisticated professional aura he had carefully prepared was easily flattened by a sentence about Auntie Wong buying cabbage. As her face flushed with heat, a strange, new feeling stirred deep inside her. Scene transition, Friday evening. On the eve of the October 1st holiday, the air was filled with a restless urge to take flight. Room 402, South District apartment, just as the last class ended. Xu Yiting stood in the middle of the dorm and announced, "Brothers, don't just sit here and rot for the 7-day break. My family's Range Rover just got its maintenance done, and I've planned a Golden Road trip route. Driving along the coastline all the way south, staying in seaside villas, eating top-tier seafood and throwing pool parties. I'll cover all the expenses." As soon as Zuo Jing heard that, his eyes lit up, and he jumped right off the bed. "Holy crap, Shu, you're the man. Luo, quit reading those dusty books of yours. Come out and see the world for a change." Luo Lai pushed up his glasses, his tone flat. "I'm attending a lecture on classical music appreciation during the holiday, so I'm not going." Shu heard this and curled his lip, then turned his gaze to Chen Yi on the top bunk. "What about you, Yi Ji? Don't tell me you're planning to hole up in the library for 7 days. I've got some business. I'm not leaving Zhangcheng." "Come on, Yi Ji. I've already planned the whole route. I was just waiting for you to say yes. Without you as our backbone, there's no point in us going out." "Excuse me, is this dorm 402? I'm looking for young Master Xu Yiting. President Xu asked me to deliver some holiday gifts. Thank you all for taking such good care of our young master." 2 young men carried the gift boxes into the dorm and set them gently on the floor. 2 foam-insulated boxes were printed with Yangchun Lake Special labels. Beside them, Yangchun Lake Special, were several incredibly luxurious wooden gift boxes. Yangchun Lake Special. Xu Yiting jumped down from the ladder. Yangchun Lake Special. Seeing this display, Yangchun Lake Special, his face instantly beamed with pride. Yangchun Lake Special. He deliberately raised his voice. Yangchun Lake Special. Yangchun Lake Special. My old man is really something. Yangchun Lake Special. Sending stuff over and making such a scene. Yangchun Lake Special. We're all brothers here. Yangchun Lake Special. No need to be so polite. Yangchun Lake Special. The driver wore a professional smile. President Xu said that friends should always show proper courtesy. These 2 boxes are the first catch of Yangchun Lake hairy crabs this year. These are 6-tail male crabs. And these boxes are top-tier bird's nest. Just a small gesture, I hope you young masters don't mind. Zuo Jing leaned in to look at the clawing, snapping crabs in the insulated box, drooling at the sight. Holy crap, 6-tail crab kings. Shu, your family is way too generous. Xu Yiting was bursting with joy inside, but he waved his hand with feigned indifference. Xu Yiting sent the driver off. Just as the driver reached the door, at the very moment he was about to cross the threshold, he paused and in a very subtle way, bowed his head toward the top bunk, where Chen Yi had been looking at his phone the entire time. The movement was so small it was almost an illusion. After doing this, he turned and walked away briskly without looking back. Throughout the entire dorm, only one person caught that fleeting moment. Luo Lai wiped his glasses with a cleaning cloth, appearing calm. Looking through his frames without the lenses, he watched the driver's back disappear into a blur. He put his glasses back on and looked at the ridiculously expensive pile of gifts. He glanced at Xu Yiting, who was still wildly showing off, and finally, his gaze landed on the quiet figure on the top bunk. He started to think, Xu Dachang is worth hundreds of millions. Would he really send gifts of this caliber just because his son made a few friends at school? And having his personal driver refer to them as young masters? This makes no sense. Luo Lai's heart began to pound violently. Unless these gifts weren't meant for the roommates at all. But for one person in particular. That bow was the best proof. He walked to the balcony and called home. Dad, I'm not coming back for the holiday. Never mind the music concert. I'm staying in Zhangcheng to learn about investing from a friend. It's late and the lights in the dorm are out. Shu listens as the sound of Zuo Jing discussing hairy crabs fades away. It eventually settles into the sound of steady breathing. Late at night, Chen Yi lies flat on his bed. The surroundings are finally completely quiet. Just as he's about to close his eyes, a mechanical, synthetic voice rings out in his mind without warning. Detected that you have perfectly maintained a low-key and reserved lifestyle recently. You have abandoned vanity and returned to a simple state. Hidden achievement triggered, back to basics. Stage-based critical reward triggered. Distributing rewards. Obtained. 1 top-floor luxury penthouse in the Wanli Biguo complex, located in the core business district of Zhangcheng. Total area, 328 square meters, 5 bedrooms and 2 living rooms. Property rights. Includes a top-floor terrace garden, full ownership certificate paid in full. Electronic keys and access cards have been stored in the system space. Chen Yi's breath hitches for half a second. Property? Chen Yi rolls over. Watching the cool moonlight spilling in through the window, a helpless smile tugs at the corner of his mouth. He was reborn just to be at peace. Hurry up and move, I've already turned on the air conditioning in the car. By the balcony, Luo Lai is holding a pour-over kettle, drawing circles over the coffee grounds. His gaze pierces through the rising steam, locked firmly on the upper bunk. He watches Chen Yi, who is packing, shove 2 embroidered white shirts and a pair of dark casual trousers haphazardly into his backpack. Luo, are you really not coming with us? Why go to some crappy lecture? You'll go numb if you just stay cooped up at school every day. Not going. The US stock market has been moving lately. I'm staying in Zhangcheng to study the market trends. Alright then, stock god. Remember to treat us when you make money. I'm heading out first. Where are you going to hang out, brother Yi? If you run into any trouble in Zhangcheng or if there's a factory you can't get into, give me a call anytime. Mention my name, it carries some weight. The autumn morning is chilly. On the main road of Zhang University. It's full of students dragging their suitcases. Chen Yi doesn't join the crowd. He strolls out of the school gate and at the non-motor vehicle parking area on the street corner. He scans a green shared bike. With a push of his feet, the tires roll over the fallen leaves covering the ground. He rides leisurely along the side lane. At the school gate, a figure in a khaki trench coat appears, Luo Lai. He watches Chen Yi riding the bike ahead, reaches out, and flags down an empty taxi. He says in a low voice, "Driver, follow that shared bike in front. Don't get too close." The taxi driver looks at the figure ahead and chuckles, "Young man. Checking up on your girlfriend?" Luo Lai doesn't answer. His gaze remains locked on Chen Yi, who is cycling slowly ahead. Chen Yi rides very slowly, the breeze blows the hem of his white shirt. Half an hour later, the shared bike follows the main road of Zhangcheng. Turning onto a quiet, tree-lined avenue. The noise is instantly cut off by the tall French plane trees on both sides. At the end of the road stands a magnificent, grand gate made entirely of stone. The 4 gilded characters, Wanli Biguo, are embedded in the dark granite header. This is the most expensive and heavily guarded luxury residential complex in Zhangcheng. Chen Yi hits the brakes at the entrance of Wanli Biguo, his feet touching the ground. 2 security guards in black special service uniforms immediately walk out of the guard station. "Excuse me, sir. This is private property. Non-motorized vehicles are not allowed inside. Which resident are you here to see?" On the tree-lined path in the distance, a taxi slowly came to a stop. Luo Lai watched the scene through the window. The taxi driver smacked his lips and said, "That kid's got some nerve. Coming into Wanli Biguo riding a shared bike." "I'm not here to see anyone. I'm going home. My apologies, sir. I didn't recognize you. Welcome home. Penthouse level VIP resident." "Don't worry about the bike, sir. We'll take care of it for you." Another security guard quickly grabbed his walkie-talkie to dispatch a dedicated vehicle. Less than 30 seconds later, a sleek, stylish, pure white golf cart pulled up. A private butler opened the door for Chen Yi, and he stepped in. The cart glided smoothly down the private road deep into the complex. Man, that kid's dressed like that. Yet he's actually a resident here, riding a shared bike? Luo Lai leaned back in his seat, completely bewildered. A resident of the penthouse at Wanli Biguo? That's definitely not something you can get for just a few million. Recalling what was said that morning about running into trouble in Zhangcheng. Just say my name. Luo Lai thought that was an absolutely absurd joke. The elevator numbers climbed until they finally stopped at floor 36. Chen Yi swiped his card and pushed open the door, revealing a 328 square meter living room. Outside the 270-degree panoramic floor-to-ceiling windows, the core river view of Zhangcheng was laid out below. The smart home system sensed him, and the heavy blackout curtains silently retracted to both sides. Chen Yi tossed his backpack onto the sofa and looked around the luxury residence. SKP. The high-end boutique supermarket on the lower level was blasting the air conditioning. Chen Yi pushed his cart and stopped in the fresh meat section, reaching out to pick up a box of M9 grade Australian Wagyu. The marbling was perfectly distributed. Across a rack of imported red wine, Shen Zuqing stood in a perfectly tailored khaki trench coat, her long hair loose. Seeing Chen Yi, she froze for a moment, then couldn't help but push her cart over. Shen Zuqing looked at the M9 Wagyu in Chen Yi's cart. The ingrained pride of a top student made her want to regain some ground. She pointed out reservedly, high marbling, thick-cut meat like this is extremely demanding on the heat. It's best paired with a bottle of Romane Conti. Chen Yi turned his head. He replied casually, Senior Shen, high-end ingredients often only require the simplest cooking methods. Slice this meat thinly, pair it with 10 yuan worth of enoki mushrooms for a sour and spicy beef soup, and have it with a 3 yuan chilled Sprite. That is the true culinary knockout. Shen Zuqing was left speechless by Chen Yi's words. She had no choice but to bite the bullet and follow him. As they passed the daily necessities aisle, a stock clerk pushing a forklift piled high with goods came rushing around the corner. A case of bottled water tilted toward Shen Zuqing. Chen Yi reacted instantly. He lunged half a step forward, his right arm sweeping past the outside of Shen Zuqing's shoulder. He gave her right arm a quick tug, pulling her inward. The water crashed heavily exactly where she had just been standing, and Shen Zuqing's back pressed tightly against Chen Yi's chest. Her heart missed a beat. That protective force vanished as quickly as it had touched her. Chen Yi stepped back half a pace, restoring a safe social distance. He said calmly, truck blind spots are huge. Watch where you're walking. After paying the bill, Shen Zuqing took the initiative to invite him. Thanks for just now. To show my appreciation, let me buy you a coffee. Chen Yi glanced at his watch. Carrying the shopping bags, he said, maybe another time. If the meat stays out of the freezer too long, it'll affect the texture. I'm in a rush to go home and make beef and sour soup. After saying that, he turned and left. The flat was deathly quiet. Chen Yi put the Wagyu he'd just bought into the fridge. He grabbed a bottle of water and walked to the living room. Ding. His phone screen lit up. Ding. It was a WeChat message from Ning Yao, an image of a yellowed, handwritten note. A few lines of obscure, flowing English cursive, softly underlined with a pencil. A fingertip could be seen on the side, nails trimmed round and clean. Immediately after, Ning Yao's second message popped up. The clause structure in this Old English is really tricky. I checked 2 different dictionaries, but none of the definitions make sense. Chen Yi zoomed in on the photo. In his past life, to connect with overseas capital, he had forced himself to become half-translator. He didn't even have to think about this kind of obscure clause. He held down the voice note button and sent. That's not a subordinate clause. It's a medieval inverted opening. It means that once the external facade of desolation is stripped away, the core remains you. In the Zhang University girls' dorm, Ning Yao was wearing gray cotton loungewear, that thick, out-of-print book spread across her knees. She tapped the voice note on her screen. Chen Yi's voice, slightly lazy and deep, came out of the speaker as if he were right there, whispering against the curve of her ear. Ning Yao's breath hitched. She instinctively pulled the phone away. Her porcelain white earlobes were uncontrollably flushing a faint, thin shade of red. In an unassuming old alleyway downtown at dusk, Chen Yi pushed open the weathered wooden door. A brass bell gave a dull chime. The lighting inside the vinyl record shop was dim. The air was filled with the scent of old cardboard and coffee beans. He walked down the aisle, toward the end of the third shelf. Ning Yao was wearing a khaki long skirt, layered with a light-colored cardigan. She seemed to melt into the shop's dim, warm light. The two of them stood in the gap between the record shelves. Their eyes met for a fleeting moment, and the corners of Ning Yao's mouth curved up just a fraction. Chen Yi walked to a spot right next to her, only half a meter away. Ning Yao's fingertips were sliding across the top shelf when she suddenly saw a Tchaikovsky record. A limited 1968 pressing. She reached out to pull it. Chen Yi reached out at the same time, his hand grabbing the sleeve first. Ning Yao's warm, soft fingertips brushed his hand, and she pulled back instantly, as if shocked by electricity. Chen Yi took the opportunity to hand her the record. This piece is perfect for listening to on a rainy day. Ning Yao lowered her gaze, her long lashes casting shadows over her eyes. She reached out with both hands, her fingertips carefully avoiding his. She took the record, its edges slightly worn, from him. Her knuckles tensed slightly, holding the record against her chest. She was silent for 2 seconds. Her voice was extremely soft, with a hint of rare, husky emotion. Then, maybe we can listen to it together sometime. There was no time or place promised. But those words felt like a delicate thread, secretly binding the two of them together. Chen Yi didn't answer, he just nodded, very, very slowly. By 8 o'clock in the evening, the rain was coming down even harder. On the second floor of the cafe opposite Wanli Biguo, Luo Lai ordered a cup. The pour-over coffee was set down, but it had long since gone ice cold. He hadn't taken a single sip, his eyes locked intently on the gate across the street. A taxi pulled up, and Chen Yi stepped out, holding a black umbrella. He was carrying a vintage record player in his hand. This time, the security guard didn't stop him. Instead, the guard dashed straight into the rain to open the gate for him. They stood in a crisp line and saluted as Chen Yi disappeared into the depths of the tree-lined path without even looking back. Luo Lai gasped, feeling as if the air had been instantly sucked out of his lungs. He adjusted his glasses, his hands visibly shaking. Top floor access card, the security guard acting as his personal escort. He didn't need an invitation to walk through that door, he was the master of this place. Luo Lai leaned back against his chair, his Adam's apple bobbing with immense difficulty. He muttered to himself, Chen Yi, who on earth are you? On the second day of the long holiday, sunlight poured through the 270-degree panoramic. Floor-to-ceiling windows, landing on the big bed. Chen Yi rolled over and grabbed his phone. The message count in the 402 dormitory group chat had already passed 99. He tapped to open it. Xu Yiting had dumped over a dozen short videos, each one reeking of an incredibly arrogant scent of money. Hey sons, are you seeing this? This is what we call living. This villa costs nearly 20,000 a day to rent. If you call me Daddy right now, next time you come to Sanya, all your food and drinks are on me. Zuo Jin immediately flooded the chat with a string of kneeling emojis. I'll call you Daddy first. Seafood and cold beer. You'll probably have gout by the time you're 30. If you don't call him Daddy now, I, your son, will pay for your full medical bills. Xu Yiting was silent for a minute, then erupted with a string of garbled text. Feng, you damn Chen Yi. Feng, you're cursing me first thing in the morning? Chen Yi added, calm and unhurried. Xu Dachang, does your uncle know you're out there adopting sons everywhere? The group chat went deathly silent instantly, nobody dared to reply. In a high-end, members-only tea house in the western district of Zhangcheng, the bamboo blinds were half lowered. On the small charcoal stove, the water was boiling merrily. Luo Lai had specifically worn a well-tailored casual suit today, sitting in front of the yellow rosewood tea table. Sitting across from him was a man in his 50s, Uncle Wang, the regional agent for several of Zhangcheng's high-end property developments. And an old friend of Luo Lai's father. Luo Lai picked up the teapot with practiced ease, poured a cup for Uncle Wang, and probed, Uncle Wang. My dad is looking to add some private property in the heart of Zhangcheng recently. I heard there are some second-hand listings for Wanli Biguo. Uncle Wang said he could look into it. Luo Lai slowed his speech and said, not the lower floors. The lighting is limited. I heard their top floor flats are quite good. As soon as the words left his mouth, Uncle Wang's hand, holding his tea, noticeably froze in midair. The tea sloshed slightly in the cup. He placed the cup back onto the table, and most of the relaxed expression on his face faded away. It's not about the money, he explained. The developer behind the Wanli Biguo project has ties to the capital. Those top floor flats were never intended to be sold to the public from the start. Luo Lai furrowed his brows and pressed for more. Uncle Wang lowered his voice and told him, these properties are meant for gifting, they are off-the-books assets. The property management only recognizes a plain black magnetic card with no markings. It only has a unique serial number. Luo Lai's heart tightened instantly. His mind roared, this was an exact match for the black card he had seen before. Uncle Wang advised Luo Lai not to touch such a tough case and stood up to drink some tea. Luo Lai sat where he was, cold sweat seeping down his spine. He realized that all those top-tier resources, which ordinary people could never access. Xu Dachang's deep bow, Zhou Xingzhan's high-end, special supply Cuban cigars, were all centered around that college freshman who ate in the cafeteria every day. Chen Yi. Early in the morning, Chen Yi wiped his face in his 300 square meter luxury apartment. Feeling it was a bit lonely and empty, he put on a plain black t-shirt with no brand logos, grabbed his car keys and headed out, planning to go to the Jinsho Wadding Hotel to pick up that dust-covered RS6 to use as his daily driver. Mr. Chen, here is your full refund receipt. Yeah, thanks. Is parking in the VIP zone safe? This is my business card, please rest assured. In the underground garage, a cement gray Audi RS6 sat quietly in the corner. The body was covered in a fine layer of dust. Chen Yi climbed into the driver's seat. After he turned the ignition, the V8 engine let out a low growl, and then he drove out of the garage. Merging into the morning rush hour traffic, Chen Yi parked the car in front of a car wash on an old street. He asked for a standard wash. The owner just assumed it was a regular Audi wagon. Chen Yi turned and walked to the beef noodle stall next door, pulled over a small stool, and sat down. He told the owner, "Give me a bowl of noodles, and add an extra serving of beef. And extra cilantro." Chen Yi sat down at the greasy folding table. He pulled out a tissue to wipe the tabletop, and the owner brought over a large bowl of spicy beef noodles. He peeled 2 cloves of garlic, eating a mouthful of noodles, then a bite of garlic. He ate with great satisfaction, completely indifferent to the surroundings. A black Porsche Panamera pulled up in front of the car wash. The passenger door pushed open, and Shen Zuqing stepped out. His mother had gone to the bank, leaving him to look after the car wash. As he turned, he saw a figure in a black t-shirt sitting at the beef noodle stall to the right. It looked somewhat familiar, and Shen Zuqing froze. He recognized it was Chen Yi. Is that him? Looking at his pair of canvas shoes and the cheap noodles in front of him, then glancing back at the Audi RS56 being washed. He calculated quickly in his heart, Chen Yi's family wasn't well off. This car must have been brought over by the car wash owner for him to drive as a part-time job. Shen Zuqing steadied his breathing and walked over to say hello. Chen Yi put down his chopsticks when he saw him standing by the table. A crisp, cold voice rang out near the dilapidated noodle stall. Chen Yi, what a coincidence. You didn't go home for the long holiday? Chen Yi tilted his head and saw the tall Shen Zuqing. Are you working part-time here? Sort of, just running errands for someone. Taking the car out for a spin while I'm at it. His expression was calm, showing no sign of embarrassment at being exposed. A cold gust of wind blew by. Shen Zuqing got goosebumps from the cold. Chen Yi stood up, walked over to the freshly washed RS6, and took out a black windbreaker. He tossed it straight to him. Mine just happened to be left in the car. Put this on and get it cleaned before you bring it back. Shen Zuqing stood there, stunned. Clutching the jacket, speechless, Chen Yi turned and scanned the QR code. He paid for the car wash and the noodles, then slid into the driver's seat of the 6 rupees. The V8 engine roared to life, the exhaust note vibrating the canopy above. He steered with one hand and pressed the gas, pulling out. The car disappeared around the corner, leaving Shen Zuqing standing there, hugging the shell jacket, dazed. Standing in the cold wind, Shen Zuqing quickly pieced the details together. Chen Yi had paid for the car wash himself, and the shop owner had treated him with such respect. He finally realized that car belonged to him. Shen Zuqing's cheeks began to burn. He had always thought he was the tolerant, equal one, but it turned out Chen Yi was the one truly standing at the top. His mother walked over with the receipt and asked who had been driving that car. Shen Zuqing stammered, "Oh, nobody. Just a regular junior who happened to run into me. We just said hi." He turned and walked quickly toward the Panamera. He held the shell jacket tight against his chest, trying to hide the man's coat. As night fell, Chen Yi finished his shower in his spacious apartment at Wanli Biguo. He leaned against the floor-to-ceiling window, with only a single warm light on in the room. Neon lights flickered outside, and his phone screen lit up. Ning Yao sent an image, a trading app, light rain, a cup of black tea, a trading app. A rare out-of-print book, a trading app, and a glimpse of a vinyl record sleeve tucked away. Chen Yi tapped the image and saw the text Ning Yao had sent. The rain stopped. Finished the book. He found this way of communicating comfortable. No need to pretend, no need to please. The cues she threw out were full of open space, one only needed to catch them naturally. Chen Yi tapped the screen, typing 05100030, then replied, "If you're willing. How about we grab tea somewhere else?" A few minutes later, Ning Yao replied with a simple okay, and sent over the location. A tea house in the old city district of Zhangcheng called Half Floating Life, scheduled for 2 in the afternoon on the 4th day of the holiday. Chen Yi only sent one word back, done. During the long holiday, the dormitory group chat for room 402 exploded. Xu Yiting sent 5 videos in a row, standing on a 70-foot double-decker yacht, wearing floral pants. He held up a glass of champagne and shouted, "Look, boys. See this? This is how life is meant to be lived." Zhuo Jing lay on the railing, clutching a crab leg, her mouth stuffed full of meat. Back in his apartment at Wanli Biguo, Chen Yi was woken up by the group messages. Xu Yiting and Zuo Jing were bragging in the video about their yacht trip, demanding everyone call them daddy before they'd hand over the plane tickets. Chen Yi got out of bed, drank some water, and opened the Sanyu Meteorological Bureau website. He took a screenshot of a typhoon warning and sent it to the group. Chen Yi pressed the voice note button. His tone flat as he said, "The typhoon makes landfall this afternoon. Better buy some motion sickness pills and accidental death insurance early. Put me down as the beneficiary. I'll burn a paper yacht for you guys on the 1st and 15th of every month. Remember to let me know in my dreams if the paper boat leaks." As soon as the voice note went out, the group chat went deathly silent. Half a minute later, Zuo Jing sent a voice note, her voice trembling, "Brother Yi, don't scare me like that. I just thought the sky looked weirdly dark. Master Shu, maybe we should head back?" In the background, Li Shuiting could be heard roaring frantically at the captain. "Why are the waves so big? Turn the boat around, damn it. I checked the insurance claim section. If a typhoon hits, the boat charter fee might be fully refunded. That's assuming you have your life to go file the paperwork. With waves from an 11-level gale, the chance of the yacht capsizing is 70%. Chen Yi looked at the screen, tossed his phone onto the glass counter, and turned to go wash up. Inside the Blue Mountain Private Club in the West District of Zhangcheng, Luo Lai sat on a yellow pear wood chair. Sitting across from him was Zhang Qing, a well-connected know-it-all in their circle. Luo Lai pushed a slip of paper with the name Chen Yi written on it to the center of the table. "Brother Zhang, help me look into someone." Zhang Qing glanced at it, then smiled and made 4 or 5 private calls. Half an hour later, he put down his phone, brow slightly furrowed. No record of this person. Luo Lai gripped his knees tightly, unable to believe it. Zhang Qing said confidently, "Who in Zhangcheng owns how many properties? Or who just bought a new car? Nothing escapes my background checks. But Chen Yi's background is as clean as a blank sheet of paper. He's just an orphan who went to school on a scholarship." Luo Lai's palms were covered in sweat. He realized, there are 2 kinds of people you really can't afford to offend. One is the nouveau riche who constantly talks about money. And the other is a top-secret figure whose background has been deliberately wiped clean, like an agent or a card shark like Zhou Xingjin. A black card from the vast northern reaches. The fact that I can't find anything on Chen Yi is the scariest part. Forget it, Brother Zhang. Treat today like it never happened. Don't go around asking about this person ever again. Thank God, I didn't act like that idiot Xu Yiting, flaunting my status as a rich kid in front of him. Otherwise I wouldn't even know how I died. At 2 in the afternoon, Chen Yi put on a plain black linen shirt and gray casual trousers and walked out of the bedroom. Considering the RS6 was too flashy, he hailed a private car at the entrance. Half an hour later, the car stopped under the archway of the ancient culture pedestrian street. During the long holiday, crowds surged on both sides of the Bluestone Road. Chen Yi turned into a quiet alley and climbed the wooden stairs to the Half-Life tea house. By a window on the 2nd floor, Ning Yao was wearing a simple, light-colored, neo-Chinese style dress. Her hair was held up with a wooden pin. She wore no makeup. Chen Yi pulled out a bamboo chair and sat down. Coarse pottery tea sets were laid out on the table, and water was warming over a small red clay stove. Their specialty is Da Hong Pao, but I think the charcoal-fired flavor is a bit overpowering. You taste that? That's not charcoal-fired flavor. That's because the tea wasn't stirred evenly during the kill-green process and it burned at the bottom. They use that burnt taste to cover up the mustiness of old tea leaves. The owner is quite the cunning businessman. Ning Yao tightened her grip on her fingers and said, "If it tastes that bad, then don't drink it." Chen Yi took a bite of a mung bean cake and said nonchalantly, "Following your lead. That's called flattery. Playing pretend for the sake of a few broken leaves is pretty exhausting, Ning." Ning Yao lowered her lashes, hiding the ripples in her eyes. The pedaling sounds from the street drifted in, making this moment feel unusually quiet. The two began to chat about economics. Ning Yao rested her chin on her hand, asking if the obstacles to class mobility from the early Industrial Revolution were still applicable today. Chen Yi swirled his empty teacup and said, "Of course they apply, it's just in a different shell. The barriers today are algorithmic recommendations and data hegemony. The upper class feeds fragmented entertainment information to the lower class, until even the strength to resist is consumed by short-term pleasure. No flowery rhetoric." It was sharp and hit home. After more than an hour, Chen Yi got up to pay the bill. The owner waved him off, saying Ning Yao had already paid. Chen Yi turned back and saw Ning Yao standing by the stairs, holding her canvas bag. She said, "You helped me with my books at the library, so consider this meal a thank you." This excuse for paying him back was flawless. Chen Yi didn't refuse and said, "All right, but the mung bean cakes here are actually pretty good." Let's try something else next time. That word next time had no specific date, yet it naturally extended the connection between them. As they walked downstairs, Chen Yi kept himself slightly behind and to the side of her, enough to shield her from the crowd, but without creating any unnecessary physical contact. When the crowd was at its thickest, Chen Yi's shoulder brushed against Ning Yao's arm. He caught his breath for a split second, but didn't pull away. Passing by a ring toss booth, Ning Yao stopped in her tracks, her eyes landing on a corner of the shelf, where a hand-carved solid wood cat figurine sat. He couldn't keep a cat in the dorm, so he loved these kinds of little trinkets and couldn't help but stare for 2 seconds. Chen Yi noticed his hesitation and walked straight up to the booth. The bleached blonde stall owner saw Chen Yi and Ning Yao and immediately greeted them. "Hey guys, $50 for 2 rings. Land one of these 15 and it's yours." When he used the word girlfriend, Ning Yao's knuckles tightened on the straps of his canvas bag, but he didn't speak up to correct him. Letting the label linger in the air, Chen Yi didn't deny being called a boyfriend. He scanned $50. He took the stack of lightweight plastic rings. He tossed the first plastic ring casually, it hit a ceramic doll, and bounced onto the ground. The crowd of onlookers let out a sigh. Ning Yao took a small step forward, closing the distance, and whispered, "The weight on these rings is off." Ning Yao's breath brushed against Chen Yi's ear. Reminded about the weight, Chen Yi didn't say a word. He pinched the third red ring, staring at that wooden cat in the corner. He pressed his thumb against the inside, his wrist pressing down tight. Chen Yi flipped his wrist upward, using his finger strength to slice the red plastic ring through the air. The ring carried a powerful spin, carving a perfectly straight line through the air. Steady and dead on, it landed right on the hand-carved wooden cat. The rotational force offset the bounce from the impact, and the ring locked firmly onto the base. The whole crowd went silent for a second, then erupted into loud applause and cheers. "That's awesome. He actually nailed it. That technique is insane." The smile on the blonde stall owner's face froze. He had paid hundreds for that wooden carving. It was the star of his stall. He was using it as a lure. With a pained expression, he took the wooden cat off the shelf, and kept sighing as he handed it to Chen Yi. "Man, your technique is unreal. This base is super heavy. Most people can't even get it to stay steady." The blonde guy lit a cigarette from a carton and continued, "These physical stalls are so hard to run these days. This cat is a pure hand-carved piece I bought for hundreds. If it wasn't for next month, I wouldn't even be able to pay the booth rent. My cash flow is about to snap. I couldn't bear to put it out as a lure either." Chen Yi took the wooden cat. The familiar, mechanical, synthesized voice popped into his head right on cue. Ding. Business dilemma detected. Limited edition cultural merchandise. Stagnation in physical retail. Limited edition cultural merchandise. Zinmei Cultural Creative. Action rating. B-tier micro project. Success upon capture. Suggestion. Invest 200,000 to reorganize online community channels. Zinmei Cultural Creative. Success upon capture. Zinmei Cultural Creative. Suggestion. Invest 200,000 to reorganize online community channels. Expected return on investment, 400%. Zinmei Cultural Creative Limited Release. Chen Yi's expression remained unchanged. He handed the wooden carved cat to Ning Yao, who was standing beside him, and took out his phone. He opened the QR code screen and held it directly in front of the guy with the yellow hair. "Add me on WeChat. Let me know if you see any other good stuff later. I think you have a good eye for picking out handmade crafts. Have you ever tried setting up an online community?" The yellow-haired guy took a drag of his cigarette and gave a bitter laugh. "Start an online shop? Forget it. I can barely afford to eat. That stuff requires burning money just to get traffic." Chen Yi didn't follow up on his complaints, just calmly replied, "Request sent. Check it, sell, exchange, and let's talk another day. I happen to know some friends with some extra cash. Success upon capture, no returns or exchanges. I can help you make the connection. Success upon capture, no returns or exchanges. Success upon capture, no returns or exchanges." After saying that, he turned and walked with Ning Yao deep into the pedestrian street. Success upon capture, no. The yellow-haired guy stood there, phone in hand, looking at that newly added black profile picture with skepticism. Ning Yao held the wooden cat in both hands. Its form was carved with such lifelike agility. The two walked along the bluestone path, the bricks slightly damp and slippery from the rain. Ning Yao walked on the inside, while Chen Yi took the side closer to the middle of the street. As tourists squeezed past, a distance of about a fist's width remained between their shoulders. Ning Yao kept replaying those incredibly calm, understated words Chen Yi had said at the stall. He understood the difference between a master's touch and a hollow shell too well. That absolute control Chen Yi had over the situation was not the kind of mindset an 18-year-old freshman should have. "Are you interested in cultural merchandise investment?" "Wouldn't call it interest. That guy has a sharp eye for product selection. The carving on that cat is an old-school Suzhou technique. If you package it right online, you could mark the price up 10 times, no problem. What he lacks isn't quality goods, it's the megaphone to bridge the information gap. Making money is all about who grabs the megaphone first. Ning Yao remained silent, understanding deep down that his way of thinking was on an entirely different level from the theories in his textbooks. They walked slowly. Every so often, a child would run past them. Chen Yi would lean slightly toward the inside, and the fabric of his sleeve would ever so slightly brush against the edge of Ning Yao's dress, touching and pulling away in an instant. Neither of them intentionally widened the distance, nor did either one move a single inch closer. In the temporary parking zone outside the cultural street, a black Panamera sat with its hazard lights flashing. Shen Zuqing sat in the driver's seat, a dark gray paper bag sitting on the passenger seat. Inside was the dry-cleaned black windbreaker, pressed perfectly flat. Before sealing the bag, he had even sprayed a hint of a very niche cedar wood-scented perfume on it. He picked up his phone. The screen was still on the page from half an hour ago. It was his chat window with Chen Yi. Shen Zuqing stared at the message history. He had asked Chen Yi if he was at school, and Chen Yi said he was strolling around the old culture street. So, he made up an excuse, saying, I happen to be heading there for some business, so I'll drop it off on the way. The last message was the location pin Chen Yi had sent, and there had been no conversation since. He knew deep down, on a holiday afternoon in October, who would run to a commercial street packed with tourists just to run business errands. Even he felt the excuse was a bit forced. But he couldn't care about any of that now. Shen Zuqing's mind kept replaying the day in front of the noodle shop, the sight of Chen Yi tossing his clothes aside and walking away without a look back, and the roar of the engine from that incredibly expensive RS6. This man, who possessed absolute wealth yet could blend into the grassroots of the city without a hint of dissonance, had completely shattered all his previous, high and mighty standards for a partner. He pulled out his car keys and stepped out of the car, carrying the paper bag. Tucking his hair behind his ears, he made sure there wasn't a single wrinkle in his clothes. He stepped through the pedestrian street's archway, carrying a glimmer of hope that even he was desperately trying to deny. Following the location pin, Shen Zuqing walked toward the old theater stage in the center of the district. Beneath a few thick, old locust trees, the crowd had thinned out a little. He saw that familiar silhouette, a pure black linen shirt. His posture was tall and straight, making him incredibly easy to spot in the chaotic crowd. Less than 20 meters ahead, Chen Yi was standing in front of a handmade candy figurine stall. Shen Zuqing's chest rose and fell. He was just about to quicken his pace to walk over, when, the very moment he took his first step, Chen Yi turned around. A person emerged from his side, a girl wearing a simple, elegant new Chinese-style long dress. She was holding an exquisite wooden cat figurine. The girl tilted her head, her profile perfectly clear in the sunlight. Her profile was perfectly clear in the sunlight. She was that famous ice queen from the School of Economics and Management. Shen Zuqing's footsteps felt like they had been nailed into the bluestone pavement, pinning him right where he stood. Ning Yao handed the candy figurine in her hand toward Chen Yi. The two were standing very close. Her manner carried a sort of extremely natural familiarity. When it came to looks, temperament, and reputation, Ning Yao was not a bit inferior to her, the school beauty. Shen Zuqing stood in the shadows of the old locust tree, his feet rooted to the ground. Chen Yi handed a candy figurine to Ning Yao, but she didn't eat it. She just looked down at the wooden cat in her hand, her fingertips brushing against its back. He smiled, a kind of smile Shen Zuqing had never seen on Ning Yao's face before. Whether in the broadcasting station or the student union, Ning Yao always had that cold, distant look. And that wooden cat she was holding, he had noticed her glancing at it twice when they passed the ring toss stall earlier. The thing that Ning Yao was holding in her hands, unwilling to let go, was something Chen Yi had won for her. A thought burrowed into Shen Zuqing's brain. He suddenly felt that the bag of perfectly ironed outdoor gear in his hand was burning hot. Looking at the two backs walking off side by side, he felt his own efforts were ridiculous. He moved half a step forward, then stopped. What would he be doing if he went up? Interrupting them? And then shoving the clothes at Chen Yi right in front of Ning Yao? He had never chased after anyone in his life, yet now he had traveled halfway across the city with a bag of clothes, only to watch the person he had been thinking about laughing and talking with another girl. Those two didn't even look toward Shen Zuqing once. Chen Yi tilted his head and said something to Ning Yao. Ning Yao looked up and replied, and they both laughed together. A lump formed in Shen Zuqing's chest, making it hard to breathe. He turned around. His heels clicked against the bluestone, his pace much faster than when he arrived. With his head down, he skirted around the crowd and walked toward the outside of the archway. As he passed the ring toss stall, the guy with the dyed hair was still shouting about a couple's special. The sound stung, making him quicken his pace. He returned to the car. The air conditioning was still running. Shen Zuqing sat down in the driver's seat. He reached back and pulled the car door shut, leaving the dark gray paper bag sitting quietly in the passenger seat. He stared at that bag of clothes for a long time. His phone was slick with sweat in his hand. He opened his chat with Chen Yi, the last message still sitting there from half an hour ago. The location he sent was, "I just happened to be running an errand over that way. I'll drop it off while I'm at it." That was a story he had made up himself. Now he was sitting in the car, wondering, what errand did he actually have? Shen Zuqing leaned back against the seat, suddenly feeling an inexplicable sense of weightlessness. He had always thought he was the one standing on higher ground, family, grades, looks, he had it all. Even towards Chen Yi, he had been holding onto a mindset of looking at a junior from a poor background as his equal. Now he realized, the one who had been standing up high looking down from the very beginning, seemed to be Chen Yi. He grabbed the paper bag and pulled it into his arms. The clothes still held a lingering trace of that cold, cedar scent. For the first time, he felt his own initiative was completely redundant. When Chen Yi handed the sugar figurine to Ning Yao, he didn't even glance toward the old locust tree. Ning Yao took the figurine, not eating it, but shielding the wooden cat with one hand while holding the little bamboo stick of the sugar figurine in the other. Chen Yi asked, "Aren't you going to eat it?" Ning Yao held the figurine up in front of her eyes. It was shaped like a little rabbit. "I'll keep it for a while. It's so well made. It would be a shame to let it break." Chen Yi said, "Sugar figurines melt in 2 days." Ning Yao smiled, "Then I'll just look at it for 2 days." The sky began to darken, and the lanterns along the street lit up one by one. There were even more tourists than in the afternoon, shoulder to shoulder. Chen Yi walked on the side closest to the center of the street the whole time, blocking the crowds pushing in from both sides. By the time they reached the entrance of the archway, the road widened a bit. Ning Yao looked at the sky and said, "It's getting late. I have to head back." Chen Yi reached out and hailed a taxi by the side of the road. The taxi pulled over, and Chen Yi opened the back door for her. Ning Yao didn't rush to get in. She held the wooden cat in her arms, turned around to look at Chen Yi, and said, "I had a really good time today." That was all Chen Yi got, but she said it very sincerely. Her eyes met his, as if she were stating an absolute fact. Chen Yi was stunned for half a second. He had seen plenty of women, and heard plenty of performative lines, but Ning Yao's words were clean. With no hidden agenda, Chen Yi nodded, and said, "Next time, let's try a different tea house." Ning Yao's eyes crinkled. She climbed into the car with the wooden cat, and the door clicked shut. The taxi merged into the flow of traffic, and its taillights quickly faded from view. Chen Yi stood where he was, hands stuffed into his pockets. This woman was quite interesting, smart and concise. Being with her wasn't exhausting, no need to guess her thoughts or try to please her. Every word landed exactly where it could be picked up. Chen Yi turned, ready to find a place to catch a ride back. The phone in his pocket vibrated. He took it out, and the screen displayed a message from Shen Zuqing. "I saw you at the pedestrian street just now. I didn't want to intrude on you too." Below it, another message followed. "The clothes, I left them with the owner of the beef noodle shop at the school's south gate. Remember to go pick it up." Chen Yi stared at these 2 sentences for 2 seconds. He raised an eyebrow slightly. Chen Yi was very sensitive to this kind of roundabout way of speaking. "Saw you, but we didn't want to bother you." When you put those 3 sentences together, the hidden meaning became impossible to ignore. He clearly remembered Shen Zuqing saying she would deliver it in person, but now it had been changed to leaving it with the noodle shop owner. Going from delivering it to your hand to go pick it up yourself, what happened in between? He didn't even need to think about it. He shoved his phone back into his pocket. He wasn't in any rush to reply. Anything he said at a time like this wouldn't be appropriate. An explanation would look like he had something to hide, and trying to appease them would seem too deliberate. Playing dumb would just invite more trouble. Chen Yi didn't really have any ulterior motives toward those 2 girls. Ning Yao was a rare bit of peace and quiet. As for that time with Shen Zuqing, that deadpan look, returning the clothes was entirely a drama she had concocted in her own head. He couldn't even be bothered to explain it. In this second life of his, he was after a sense of freedom. He didn't want to be like his past life, living in fear of someone else's mood. He looked up at the darkening sky. He walked along with the flow of the crowd. The smell of cooking oil from the street stalls, mixed with the sweet scent of sugar-roasted chestnuts, drifted over. A man selling candied haws pushed his cart past. Chen Yi reached out and stopped him to grab a skewer. "Hawthorn or the mix?" Chen Yi took the candied haw, bit into one, and squinted his eyes at the sourness. He ate as he walked, temporarily pushing Shen Zuqing's message to the back of his mind. Clothes, huh? He'd just pick them up the next time he passed by the south gate. It was the last day of the long break. It was 6 in the evening and the sky was turning dark. A taxi pulled up to the south gate of Zhangde University. Chen Yi pushed the door open and got out. He swung his backpack over one shoulder. He didn't head into the school gate, but turned and headed to the right. The old beef noodle shop by the south gate had a dim, yellow light box glowing, and there were greasy stains on the door curtain. The owner was wiping the counter with a yellowing rag. When he looked up and saw who it was, he smiled immediately. The noodle shop owner bent down and fished out a dark gray paper bag from the bottom compartment of the counter. He handed it over across the counter, saying, "A young lady left this here for you a couple of days ago. She was a real looker. She specifically told me to keep it safe, and not to get it dirty." Chen Yi reached out and took the bag. The opening of the bag had been carefully folded over twice, the edges pressed perfectly flat. The moment he lifted it, a faint, delicate scent wafted out from the creases. It wasn't the smell of laundry detergent, it was cool, with a subtle woody bass note. "You said to scan for the noodle money and the storage fee together." "Oh, come on, why charge for storing something? Just consider it paying for a bowl of noodles in advance." Chen Yi carried the bag and walked out of the noodle shop. He casually folded the top of the bag down twice and pinched it tight. Chen Yi switched the bag to his left hand, pulled out his phone, and opened the scanner. He scanned the QR code on the counter to pay for the noodles and the storage fee. The owner had said, "Oh, come on, why charge for storing something?" Chen Yi had replied, "Just consider it paying for a bowl of noodles in advance." After saying that, he carried the bag out of the shop. He casually folded the top of the bag down twice and pinched it tight, the perfume scent now unmistakable. If she had really intended to return the clothes, she could have just washed them, folded them, and delivered them herself. He just had to add that subtle, faint touch to it. In his eyes, that little trick was as obvious as an open book test. Chen Yi carried the paper bag, stepping onto the main campus path. The streetlights had just flickered on, casting amber patches of light onto the asphalt. About 30 meters ahead, the side door of the administration building was pushed open. A few student council members in formal wear walked out, the last one being a girl in a light blue shirt dress. She tilted her head to say something to the person beside her, then turned and walked a couple of steps toward the south dorms. Her steps halted. Shen Zuqing was now less than 20 meters directly in front of Chen Yi. He froze in his tracks, their eyes locking onto each other. Chen Yi didn't stop, he kept walking forward. As the distance closed, Shen Zuqing spoke first. Her tone was flat, with a distinctly business-like vibe. "You're back?" Chen Yi said, "Just got here." He lifted his left hand and gave the paper bag a little shake. "Got your stuff back, thanks. Just needed a good cleaning. I was going to bring it straight to your dorm, but then I thought leaving it at the noodle shop would be more convenient." Chen Yi nodded. "It definitely is." After saying that, he shoved one hand into his pocket. He pulled out his phone, head lowered, thumb scrolling across the screen. Shen Zuqing stood where she was, waiting for him to say something else. But Chen Yi just looked up and asked, "How much was the dry cleaning?" "I'll transfer it to you." Shen Zuqing's posture stiffened. All the lines she had prepared were stuck in her throat. She couldn't get a single word out. She had spent the whole afternoon running to the city center to pick the most expensive dry cleaner, choosing the silk care package, and even sprayed perfume on it. Now, he was here settling the dry cleaning bill with her. "No need, it's just a piece of clothing." Her throat felt tight. Chen Yi was already typing numbers on the screen. "That won't do. I don't like owing people, I won't sleep well." With a ding, Shen Zuqing's phone vibrated in her pocket. Chen Yi had transferred 30 yuan. 30 yuan? That wouldn't even cover the bottle of perfume he'd sprayed. Just one spritz was worth more than that. Shen Zuqing gripped the edge of her phone case tightly. Her knuckles turned white, and the frustration welled up in her chest. The elaborate interaction she had meticulously prepared, along with her cherished pride, had been smashed to pieces by those 30 yuan. Chen Yi pocketed his phone. He tilted his chin slightly as a sign of goodbye. "All right, I'm heading out." Just as he started to walk away, Shen Zuqing called out, "Wait." She yelled it out, quickly finding a way to save face. "There's a student entrepreneurship fair tomorrow, co-hosted by the School of Economics and Management and the Business School. It's a decent size. You did well at the last salon. Professor Chi specifically asked me to notify you and see if you're interested in dropping by." Using Professor Chi as an excuse sounded much more pleasant than the "noodle shop" comment earlier. It was easier on the ears. Chen Yi looked at her. He said, "I'll see," neither agreeing nor refusing. Shen Zuqing turned and headed toward the girls' dormitory, her pace quick. Her back was straight as an arrow. After she had walked a dozen steps, Shen Zuqing finally dared to release the breath she'd been holding in her chest. The evening breeze blew past. He just felt cold. Chen Yi didn't bring up anything about the walking street either. He didn't ask why he had changed his mind at the last minute and didn't deliver the clothes himself. He didn't explain who that girl in the long dress was. He didn't even mention the trace of perfume he'd left on the clothes. He didn't say a word about it. Could it be that he didn't smell it? Impossible. The only explanation is that he smelled it, but he just didn't care. Behind him, Chen Yi watched as that straight, upright figure walked away.